I'm giving the internet a time to figure it all out. It looks like it's figured it all out. Welcome, everyone. This is Andres Restart. This is the podcast that... Okay, at one point or another, I may go with a name. The tentative name that J.R.R. Tolkien came up with a while back is the Weekly Restart. So maybe we are doing the Weekly Restart here. 7 p.m. Eastern Time is the usual time now, moving forward, on Monday nights. And I'm joined by my two friends, Brandon, and
That's fun.
I thought
his name.
No, I said Brandon the first time. I was like, that's Brandon. Anyways, Brandon, as you guys know, who's been on the show almost every week for like 2, 3, 4 years. A long time. And Shifty, it's been a little bit, but we've also been friends for a good long while as well. How you guys doing?
I'm
pretty.
You go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead. You go first.
Yes. No, I've been doing okay. Not a lot going on. I cleaned the really disgusting fridge today. Had a lot of mold and things. It was gross. But yeah, just been working, chilling, Except
like a
for
fun time.
last week when we got that bombshell of the Zelda gameplay, and then that was really, really hype, obviously.
Yeah, that was very, very hype. Very, very. And Shifty, how about you? How you doing? Hopefully you haven't also had to clean out nasty fridges.
Thankfully not. No disgusting moldy fridges on my end of life.
Wow.
Just
Boring life to live.
I've just been doing my thing, career stuff, that kind of thing, life, all that. But it's good to be back here again. We've known each other for a really long time, so it's just kind of cool to like be able to talk again and join a discussion.
100%. Yeah, that I'm glad to have you here, buddy. Yeah, so tonight what the plan is, we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into Tears of the Kingdom. I've made multiple videos, had multiple discussions on it. But for you guys on the channel, Brandon did watch the show with me, but he hasn't. But this will be like the first time that Brandon's been on the channel to kind of give his thoughts publicly since then. And I'm sure that your thoughts have maybe updated a little bit, or maybe more things have come to light. And well, for me, it's just digging a little deeper, because every day we figured out maybe a little bit more. And then you guys haven't shared Shifty's opinion at all on that. So we're going to be talking about that, digging a little bit deeper into Tears of the Kingdom theory and analysis. But also, the Mario movie is coming out this week, very soon. And we're going to be talking about the buzz, the excitement, some of the things we've heard. And that's pretty much the plan for the evening. Guys in the chat, if you could let me know how everything is looking and sounding, that would be super appreciated. Want to make sure everything looks and sounds okay, so please let me know. JRL Tolkien asks me, let's get it started. What is the very first thing you want to do, try when you get to the kingdom? Oh, that's a good one.
I already know my answer to that.
All right, go. Shoot.
I'm mixing as many things as I possibly can day one. I want to see how many combinations of items I can mix together and make the dumbest creation possible to do the dumbest things I can.
Okay. You want to see how many fusions you can do on top of each other? Right,
yeah. I want to see that, and I also want to see how deep it goes. Like, can you put two different combinations that are already done together? What will happen if I put this item and that item together?
That's interesting, because like, what if you drop like a stick boulder hammer, whatever it's called,
rock or whatever, yeah.
Right, you drop it on the floor, but you're already holding a sword bomb, right? It's like a sword with a bomb at the end. What happens if you fuse the two? Like, could you fuse the two if it's out there on the map? That would be, yeah. There's gonna be a lot of experimentation. A lot. Yeah.
It'd be really funny if you put stick rock with another stick rock, and then suddenly you have kind of like a Darth Maul long stick with like 2 rocks at the end, and you just kind of fight with that. There's a lot of possibilities with it, and I'm just kind of really curious to see how deep it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, when you attach the really long stick to the pitchfork. The thing was really long. Like, imagine if you just fused like a rock to the end of that. That would be already be like really, really
Or-
crazy.
Or can you just put more sticks at the end of it, and you just make an absurdly long stick for whatever particular reason?
Yeah. And then you got like all the different things you can fuse to your bow while you're shooting. That do all kinds of different things. So I'm also very curious to see what things you can fuse and like what all the items do when you fuse them and shoot your bow.
Yeah, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential with that. Like we don't win it. We don't know. We have no idea to what extent, right? Like that's kind of what's kind of crazy is that there could be thousands upon thousands of options, right? And when you think about all the crazy combinations people figured out in Breath of the Wild, like to what level could this be taken in Tears of the Kingdom? That's gonna be interesting to see. We could definitely dig deeper into that, but I'm gonna wait a little bit. Brandon, is there something that you are looking forward to doing first when you finally get to play Tears of the Kingdom?
I mean, fusion was mine, but to go with something different, Ultra Hand is super interesting. I'm curious because, like, we're not sure how the battery life works. I'm curious if you fuse different things for a base, if you might have more battery, or if, like, the tree logs are probably pretty heavy. So I wonder if you got something lighter as a base, if it would drain your battery, like, slower. And
Yeah.
you could get around easier that way.
I'll
I'm
say
very
that.
curious what you can do with that.
Yeah. Well, just to add something. In the footage, when Link, there's this one part where it shows Link on a raft that has 4 wind fans pushing it up. When he does that, I noticed the battery drops way faster than it did for when he was using it as like a wind boat.
The animation for it's not consistent either. There's like a very big drop like halfway through that drains most of the battery at like once.
It might be because it requires extra power to push it through the air. Because he had 2 that were just pushing across water. But to push up to fly into the air may require more work. So once it's lifted off from the water, maybe it drains a little bit more. And also it was 4 instead of 2 wind fans.
And you notice it's very physics based, like with how much wind and how much like weight you're lifting, because it didn't just lift instantly. Like it really had to push up and start getting to get up. It wasn't just like a smooth roll.
You sounded very robot-y, Brandon.
Okay, it's not just me then.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't hear you right now. You sound like a construct.
No.
I mean, those constructs are pretty cute, so.
Just closer to the Wi-Fi signal.
Okay. Let me. I'll tell you guys what I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm just checking here. It looks like everyone's saying everything looks and sounds great. Thank you guys. It's super appreciated. Hello there, Taker. Taker says, Nate has your back on the water exploration, Andres. We need to be able to explore Lake Hylia. It's always had significance in the series. Yeah, that's a good point. Not being able to explore Lake Hylia is a little odd, right? Like, we only can explore the surface, and there's not much we can do there. I think I feel pretty good about our chances. It's not guaranteed, but I think it would be odd if there wasn't underwater exploration. The only reason I think that there wouldn't be is simply because they played around with the idea and they realized that it wasn't very fun. That's the only way I can see it. But, you know, I'll tell you, in Skyward Sword, it's actually fun to play in the water because you kind of move around a little bit like a dolphin. And they actually explore around with that idea, even in Majora's Mask.
Like the original Majora's Mask.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, considering they already have a Zora armor that gives you some extra abilities in the water in Breath of the Wild, if you can eventually unlock like where you can kind of play, where you can swim underwater, but to the point where your abilities are very Zora-like or dolphin-like, they can make that fun. And if they make it fun, then totally go for it, right? I honestly think the only reason they wouldn't do it is because they couldn't come up with a way to do it that would be fun. I feel like they have to at least be considering the game's done already, but I feel like they would have at least thought about it at one point or another.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. It could also be maybe like they don't want to spend any more time working on the game when they were already doing the Sky Island thing and all the other additions.
But 6 years.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's
It's really hard to quantify that, right? But
yeah. I mean,
yeah, we don't even really know the extent of the changes to the original map.
yeah.
It's hard to say how much time they put into where.
I mean, the Sky Islands look pretty big, but I think it's pretty fair to say the Sky Islands are definitely not as big as the surface of Hyrule. Like that seems pretty obvious.
You can't even tell like how high they go because at a certain point you just can't see anymore.
Yeah,
but it seems to go even farther up than you can even tell. So
yeah, but Brandon, it looks like you no longer are a construct. What were you saying before?
Overcome. Let's see if I can remember. I know it was something about the Ultra Hand.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't remember what about it was. But I am very curious about that ability just in general. Also, like, we haven't seen too much of the Ultra Hand for, like, solving these, like, huge puzzles in the sky that you can, like, move the island around. We saw, like, a tiny bit of that in one of the trailers. And then in the background and one of the shots, you can see like a lot of things highlighted in orange, like huge chunks of the map you can move around. But to what purpose, we don't know. I would like to know more about those types of puzzles and what kind of rewards and things you get for them and how extensive they are.
Yeah, it did look like there was a lot of like big platforms in the items that we can move around because it did glow up orange to your point in Ultra Hand mode. I'll say that I am fairly certain that giant block boss is related to some sort of shrine challenge. And I say that because I believe we see where it is on the map. It's right next to where they show off Link's Ascend ability. So did you guys notice that arena? It was like a spiral. I guess I would have to show you like the image. So I'm gonna put it up on stream here in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, just give me a second. Let me go to. I'm gonna just screen share the YouTube video. What was I gonna say? Okay, that's right. Tears of the Kingdom. If I search that, I'm sure it'll come up in YouTube search. There it is. Okay. Oh, I was actually pretty close to it too. Cool. Okay. One moment. Yeah, I'm popping it up on stream. So if you guys want to open up the stream so you can see what image, so I can show you what I'm talking about here, and that way everyone else can see too. All right. Okay. Like the video. By the way, guys, like the stream. It'd be helpful. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. All right, it's around this area. I think you even see it on the mini map. He's taking a while. Okay.
There are all sorts of objects you'll come across.
You'll find it eventually.
Yeah, so I think it's just beyond this archway, but we can't see it yet because of the elevation. If you look at the mini map,
talking like the kind of upside down pyramid looking one almost.
Wait, there it is. That's it. So you see right here. I know there's a bit of a stream delay, but if I wait for a moment, you'll see that where I have a pause. You see this kind of arena with like a circular like shapes. You look at the middle of the stack of.
I never even noticed that.
Yeah, this is not my spot. Someone else made an analysis on it and pointed and noticed it, but I saw it recently. But there's a stack of blocks here that if you look carefully, it actually is one that's like off color compared to the rest, which lines up with that block boss has one off color block. This looks like an arena. I definitely get kind of like mini overworld boss like vibes that could be connected to some sort of like challenge from the Zonai. Yeah.
Definitely some kind of overworld boss or something. I mean, it looks like you could probably just go straight there.
Yeah, I mean, it's
but
possible.
There may be more significance to certain mini bosses than the overworld bosses before.
Maybe. I mean, it could be like a stone talus. Like it's just kind of like a stone talus is a pile of rocks. That this golem's a pile of blocks. Yeah. So, but anyways, that's I feel pretty confident saying that that's what this is. That is the block. That is the golem block boss from we saw in the trailer.
I do like that it's kind of on the edge of the Sky Island, so if it has some kind of ability to just push you off, I think that'd be really funny for it to be able to do.
It'll be a pain in the butt to get back. Yeah,
exactly. Which is why I like the idea.
Yeah,
that's gonna happen so many times in this game.
Yeah. Man, that'd be nuts.
It does make me wonder, like, how far can you combine the ideas of Ultra Hand and Fuse? Like, just if you can kind of combine certain weapons with like a creation that maybe you came up with Ultra Hand. I don't know if it goes that deep, but that'd be kind of interesting.
I mean, what if you could construct a house and then you fuse a stick to the house and you can carry it around the house?
I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against
or
it.
even better, what if you can fuse like your stick to a boss and you just hold the boss in your stick? Something tells me you can't do that, but
Probably not.
because that would just be a win button, right? Unless it still attacks you while it's on your stick. But also, Link's hand would have to be obscenely strong. although because he has a special like gauntlet thing, maybe his right hand is otherworldly strong.
Maybe. You know how in Breath of the Wild, when you have like Stalfo's hand or Stalcoblin or whatever it's called, and you know it's kind of creepy and it moves around on its own. What if you just like fused a whole bunch of skeleton parts? You got a whole skeleton just writhing around at the end of that. You're smacking people with whole skeletons now.
That would be fun. just what if you could like grab like an entire like torso rib cage and trap something in it?
Ooh,
Yeah, that would be interesting.
it has to be pretty small.
Depends how big the rib cage is
True.
and how small the other enemy is. Yeah. All right, so I got a few super chats here. I want to get to that real quick. Then we'll move forward. Attack the Backlog. Thank you for the super chat. Attack the Backlog says, "Let's go. Everything looks and sounds good, dude. Smash that like, people. We're a chance that Link finally has a line of dialogue." Okay, well, thank you for all of that. Yes, guys, if you could like the stream, it's super appreciated. I see we're hovering close to 100 people watching. We got almost 50 likes, so if you guys could like the stream, if we get to 100 likes soon, that'd be super helpful, guys. Thank you very much. But yeah, what are the chances of Link having some sort of line of dialogue?
I don't see it happening, but I think it'd be cool if there was some kind of, if it was maybe like just one line or two, just to make certain cutscenes really hit harder. Just because it would surprise the player. Yeah,
I'm with you there. I personally think that they do need to start to break down the barrier of Link talking. I know a lot of people are divided on this. We did a poll a few weeks ago, and it was almost 50-50 in terms of people being okay with it versus not. So I understand that there's a lot of people watching, listening that may not be a fan of Link talking, but if you consider that they probably are going to want to make a movie at some point, you can't have a movie without Link talking, right? And at least with Mario, there was some talking, like very little, but still something. So that barrier was broken somewhat. And if you also consider that Link having some dialogue could help facilitate a better story, I agree with you, Shifty, that there at least has to be a few one-liners mixed in. And I know not everyone here has played Metroid Dread, but I strongly recommend you playing Metroid Dread. Samus is known to be a fairly quiet character herself, although they have broken the barrier of her talking. She does it very occasionally, and in Metroid Dread she does talk, but it's very sparingly. There's just a couple lines for a couple big scenes, and those scenes had me filled with goosebumps. They were very powerful, impactful scenes. They could do something like that for Link. Like, imagine, like, you know, there's some things they could do. Like, one scene could be like, you know, maybe if Zelda's like following, Link could like call out for her and just say Zelda, right? Like, just call out for her name like one time, and that alone would be kind of significant, right? Something simple as that, a few different times throughout the story might make a big difference.
Could you imagine a Zelda game that ended with Link's death, where the only thing he said in the entire game was goodbye? Could you imagine
so
that? The first time he talks,
sword, bro.
It'll be the only time he talks in the history of the franchise, and he'll die and say goodbye in his dying breath. That would be the emotional damage that would cause the entire community would be insane.
I like it.
That would be awesome.
I like it. Yeah, that would be strong.
Very strong.
Yeah.
And I can understand why people would be somewhat against voice acting, because it's kind of a risk. You know, with a silent protagonist, you don't really run the risk of people not liking the voice acting, right? Like that, you kind of have a blank slate. You kind of have a neutral kind of playing ground, I guess, when it comes to the character. But when you have voice acting into it, depending on whether or not you like the voice acting, could really change how you feel about the scenes you're watching. So I understand, like, it's a risk. If the voice acting isn't on par with what we expect it to be, it could ruin a lot of scenes for people. So I can understand it, but at the same time,
right,
in the opposite direction, if the voice acting's amazing, the scenes are going to be that much stronger. So it is a risk. I understand that much. But I do think that eventually we do need to slowly entertain the idea and start making moves in that direction eventually. Maybe it won't happen in Tears of the Kingdom specifically, but eventually I think it's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big risk just to do voice acting in Breath of the Wild. So why not take another risk? Especially if it's just a couple of lines. I think it'd be even less of a risk than most of the characters being voice acted in Breath of the Wild. But yeah, I really want to see Link get at least a couple of lines. It would be cool if it was a word or two, but I want like one or two lines, like in one of the final cutscenes or something in the fight against Ganon. That would be epic. Because I do want to have Link just like talk normally, to be honest. Like, I hope the next game, I hope they set the ground here for people to get more comfortable with Link talking, so the next game he just talks. Not like all the time, but Link does talk. Like, you can choose dialogue options in several of the games for Link to say, and it'd be interesting if he actually just said those things instead of, you know, him being the only silent person in a world of talking people.
Yeah. In terms of the chances, I believe they it is hard to quantify it. I believe that they should go in the direction of voice acting, and I think that it would be potentially really powerful if they were to add Link, add an actual voice for Link into Tears of the Kingdom. But I'll tell you, from what they've shown, they haven't given me any significant reason to think it will be there. And maybe this is just me, but like when I look at all of the cutscenes involving the different characters in Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity, or even with what we've seen in Tears of the Kingdom, actually with Tears of the Kingdom especially, there's nothing about the way Link moves or is animated that makes me feel like he's going to talk, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can see Zelda talking, and maybe that's because I've seen Zelda talk before, so it's easier for me to envision it. But I never see Link and I'm thinking, wow, that's a character that's going to talk. Every time I see Link, like if you want me to really break it down, I just see almost like a puppet, if that makes any sense. Like Link
like an
doesn't,
avatar.
right? Yeah, I mean, and it may just be because that's just how they've treated Link. But yeah, like Link
Right.
almost looks emotionless most of the time, and he has emotion in Breath of the Wild. There are cutscenes where he shows expressions, but at least from Tears of the Kingdom, there's nothing there that seems. I mean, well, there's that one shot where he's reaching for Zelda, but it doesn't feel like.
I don't think they're hiding Link talking throughout like the whole game or something, or having like a huge amount of voice lines, and they're just hiding it from us. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. So
yeah, I just don't see it. Not in this game. It is something I would like. It's just
yeah.
I don't see it happening here.
I hope that they're hiding it, but there's nothing suggesting so. So I'm gonna say probably not. 80-20. 80% no, 20% yes, but I am 90% they should. Yeah.
It is a want. If anything,
Yeah.
we want it, but we don't see it happening here specifically, I guess.
And I've been campaigning for it too.
I have a little bit more hope that they could have a line or two. Kind of like 60-40, 60 no, 40 yeah. That he could have like one or two lines.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can do it, and if it's just one or two lines, they're not gonna show this until you play the game.
Yeah,
but you're not gonna see.
This would be like final cutscene kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like way towards the end of the game.
Yeah, we agree. Anyways, moving on. Got another super chat here from Taker610. Thank you very much for the super chat, Taker. And Taker says, so how Ode's the glider from the September Direct trailer fit in with these new abilities? Remember Link was gliding and then just landed on it in motion? Yeah, it is an interesting little craft that they showed previously. If I am not mistaken, that craft had like a foot symbol on it. Not too different from the hand symbol we have for the Ultra Hand. So
maybe it's something you can summon, because it doesn't seem like how did he get to be there exactly where he needed it to be to land? It was like kind of like hard to do, I would imagine, in real gameplay. So maybe you can just like summon it with an ability.
Maybe.
And it's just like a glider.
The thing is, we have seen
like
that it looks like there is
like
more
a
than
combat glider.
A combat glider. Interesting.
Because I'm trying to see like what's the reason to have this over a glider, but you can do way more combat if you're standing on something.
Yeah, I mean the other option is that it could perhaps glide for longer.
Yeah. So you need stamina.
Maybe it doesn't use stamina. Good point. I mean, if you can fight on it, that would be cool too. That's a good point though, Brandon. Like maybe that gives Link's more options in the sky. Yeah,
I could see you being able to shoot arrows without having to put that glider away really quick and then just bring it back up again afterward.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe it is linked to an ability. We have seen evidence suggesting that there are more than the 4 abilities we've seen, because the recall ability uses a rune. But then the other 3 abilities, so the recall ability lights up with yellow. Like, so Link's hand has the rune, a rune appears on his hand and it glows like yellow. It uses recall to reverse the time of certain objects. But the other 3 abilities, you see like the green Zone 9 magic come out, and there's no rune attached to the symbols for those abilities. However, we've seen in the pin book that there are 4 different runes. And also on the Tears of the Kingdom OLED, we can see the recall rune for one of the Joy-Cons with an entirely different rune on the other. So the implication is there might be 4 more abilities potentially, or at least 3 more rune abilities that we don't know about. So maybe
patent for I don't know if we were even planning to talk about this today, but there's a patent for a teleportation ability as well, where you can put down a marker in 2 places and instantly teleport between the 2.
Yeah, I saw that thread, Brandon. It almost looked like a portal mechanic. And when I say portal mechanic, I mean the game Portal.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see through to the other side or not. That'd be kind of a cool effect, though.
It'd be mind blowing. Yeah, to do that in a large scale, like on a large
Yeah.
scale, like Tears of the Kingdom, it would be
'Cause
crazy.
Really impressive.
you'd need a camera very far away, pointed out from the other side of the portal to capture like the environment.
Yeah. I would be inclined to assume that it would be more like a Pharaoh's kind of wind thing where you can just kind of teleport real quick.
Yeah.
Like a fast, like just a portable fast travel point. Although maybe it wouldn't. It would be more like the other thing, just a portable fast travel point. Like you can already fast travel, you know.
Right.
Um,
Maybe it will only be for certain distances because the pen doesn't look like they're crossing like a huge divide or anything. Like, maybe the point is just to solve puzzles where you need to be able to go really quickly between two places in
Maybe.
a smaller space.
and maybe it's a mechanic that they could give you for if you do fall, right? Like let's say, like as shit you brought up earlier, like what if you're on this platform and you get knocked off? If you were smart enough to place that portal point, you could use that portal, jump right back up real quick, as opposed to having to build, figure out a way to fly back up.
Yeah.
That might be, and without loading either. It could be like kind of like a seamless thing, which would be mind blowing.
Be impressive.
But maybe.
There'd probably be some kind of animation then. Well, there is some strange like description of like changing the sound based off of the distance, like the camera. It seems like the camera speeds across to where it is, and then that, like, depending on how far it is, it gains momentum, which changes the audio, which is very odd. It was kind of hard to even imagine exactly what they were doing. It was a very odd description.
Yeah, I'll have to analyze it a little bit more.
It does seem like it does, I think, talk about it being without loading screens.
That'd be pretty sick. It would be pretty sick. But let's move on here. I see that Sean Castle Singer has joined as a member. Thank you very much, Sean. Super appreciated.
Nice.
Welcome aboard to the Legends membership. As well as Attack the Backlog. Attack the Backlog has also joined as a member. Thank you, buddy.
Oh.
Very, very much appreciated. Thank you guys for joining. That means a lot, honestly. I also see here that Samuel A. has provided another super chat. Thank you very much, Samuel. And Samuel asks, what if the Underground is another civilization that is ruined by Ganondorf, signaling the Hyrule's future if Link doesn't step in? That's interesting. Like, what if the Underground is like the older Hyrule and we see a lot of things that are from there?
I mean, it would kind of explain why the Divine Beasts were under all that rock and whatnot that they had to mine it out of.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Maybe further down, you'll probably find some more, more artifacts other than just the Divine Beasts.
Yeah. I think there could be something to that idea. I'm personally not expecting a lot of like an old Hyrule being under there, but I think some, at least. I'm kind of thinking that. I mean, I've already theorized it. I think we could maybe see some of the temples returning, which would already kind of be, linking to that idea, I would say. So it's I would say I would put it in the realm of conceivable. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's believable.
Yeah.
At the very least, yeah.
Yeah. All right, but I do want to get to the topic, so I'll focus on a few ads here in the live chat, and then we'll talk about the Mario movie, and then we'll focus on Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I actually focus on it, and then we're gonna have a bit of a call-in. Samuel is scheduled to call in because he's a member, in about an hour and a half, and then we'll do probably maybe just a little bit more Q&A to end the show. Sound good, guys?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, looking through the chat here. Let's see. Trying to see. Okay. Giancarlo, do you believe the Super Mario Bros. Movie can reach $1 billion in gross revenue? I don't pay enough attention to movie stuff to really I don't even know what $1 billion is or how that compares to other movies. But I'll tell you this. I believe that this Mario movie will be the most successful Illumination movie to date.
What that means in terms of dollars, to be honest.
I don't know what that means in terms of dollars, but do you know what beating $1 billion would mean? I don't know. But I feel
really
like this movie is gonna be bigger than Despicable Me.
Pretty sure
yeah.
1 billion is like MCU levels of sales.
Well, do you think it
Right.
could?
I mean, how common is it that a movie goes over $1 billion? Like, how many movies?
That's my point. I don't know the answer to
Hmm.
I
that.
don't
So
think it's common.
Let me Google that. Actually, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Research.
Yeah. From what I'm seeing, it looks like 51 movies have hit $1 billion.
Very few.
Unless
Interesting.
it's outdated information, it looks like it's 51 movies have done
All
that.
right, so I'm looking at a list of the
Doubt any
highest
of those are
grossing
video
films. Okay, 1,000, on 1,000,000.
I mean,
billion.
some animated movies have been able to hit that number. Like, apparently, yeah.
Let's go. You can finish what you were saying, but I was like, let's Google what the highest grossing Illumination movie is.
That's a good. Well, Despicable Me
Yeah.
is in here. So
If Despicable Me was able to do it, I think it's very possible.
Despicable Me 3 looks like it broke over $1 billion, just barely. I'm trying to find if there's Minions. Jesus, Minions did really good.
Minions is their highest grossing at 1.159 billion. Despicable 3 is the second at 1.03 billion.
So I mean, if I go by my prediction, then the Mario movie, if the Mario movie beats Minions, it will be in the top 25 highest grossing films of all time. Which seems kind of ridiculous, but like,
yeah,
I don't know. I look at the names here: Avatar, Avengers, Star Wars, Spider-Man, Jurassic World, Lion King, Frozen.
I mean,
Harry Potter.
Yes, those are all big movies, but we also have to acknowledge that Mario is not exactly an indie, right? Like, it is a massive property as well. So
one of the biggest in the world.
Right, exactly. And there's going to be a good amount of kids who probably know Mario, have an interest in, Mario's mostly a all ages franchise. You're probably going to have parents who grew up with Mario who are going to take their kids to go see the Mario movie.
Yeah.
And generally just seeing a fun animated movie for all ages. I mean, I don't see why.
High-profile actors too. Like, there's gonna be a lot of people who just watch it because, like, Jack Black and Chris Pratt and things are.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think it's very possible because if a new IP, well, maybe not new IP because I think by then Despicable Me was already pretty established for the most part. But I do think that if Despicable Me is able to do that, I think it is possible and within the realm of possibility.
The brand can, right? Like, the original Despicable movie, I didn't see on that list, but if two other brand movies based off that brand have, yeah,
I think it's possible because it's a strong brand as it is.
Yeah, let's put this to the chat. Let's see what you guys think. Will the Mario movie end up as one of the highest grossing films of all time? I'm putting in parentheses top 25, and be
that's like really complicated. I thought you were just gonna say the Mario movie gonna gross over $1 billion.
Just yes or no. Will it hit over $1 billion?
Will the Mario movie fine? Will the Mario movie exceed $1 billion and be the most popular Illumination movie ever? I still complicated it.
It's better. It's fine.
Will the Mario movie exceed $1 billion and be the most popular Illumination movie ever? Okay. I put the poll. Let's see what happens. But anyways, yeah, I predict. I even though I didn't realize what $1 billion meant, now I kind of do. I think it will be the best, the most successful Illumination movie, which also in turn would mean it would exceed $1 billion in revenue, apparently. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, moving on with the chat. Dr. Kokiri, remember in Ocarina of Time you could unlock new moves and abilities by meeting the Great Fairies? What abilities would you want if they can in Tears of the Kingdom?
I forget what they do in Breath of the Wild. It's like upgrade your armor, right?
They upgrade your armor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we go off Ocarina of Time basically kind of gave us something like the champion abilities. So you got, I mean, they were different, but in Ocarina of Time there was other powers, like they would give you like a bow expansion, bomb bag expansion, like stuff like that too.
Magic usually.
Yeah, but if we're talking about abilities, they also gave us Din's Fire, Pharaoh's Wind, and Neru's Love. Neru's Love was basically like a shield, like an energy shield you can kind of run around with, and you can get hit, but you wouldn't take damage. Pharaoh's Wind was basically like a fast travel point that you could create whenever you're in dungeon, so you could teleport back out to the dungeon, do things outside the dungeon, but then come back to where you were at. And then Din's Fire, which was the coolest one, you could summon like a sort of sphere of flame that erupts out from in all directions, which is pretty cool. I mean, the Great Fairies aren't going to disappear, right? So they're probably going to come back, and maybe they do something different in this game. It would make sense to reinvent them in some way, right? What that will be is definitely a tough call.
I mean,
Yeah,
we
that's
still
hard.
need some kind of way to upgrade armor, probably, but it doesn't necessarily have to be them. Like there could be like blacksmiths or
Yeah, they could be blacksmiths.
somebody in towns or something.
I just can't imagine what to add necessarily.
Like we don't know what the dungeons are, so maybe there aren't like the champions abilities that you get from the dungeons. Maybe you get different abilities from Great Fairies.
It's tough because there's a lot of different ways they could give us power-ups and abilities, and I don't know how they're going to arrange those things. Because like when I read your question, Dr. Kokiri, my first thought was, oh, what if they gave us like a hookshot ability? Like I still think they could do something like that. But actually, apparently, in testing for Breath of the Wild, they were actually experimenting with like a double claw shot kind of power-up where you were moving around basically like Spider-Man, but it didn't. But they decided not to do that because they didn't want to bring back the claw shot for Breath of the Wild. But Tears of the Kingdom is a different beast, so maybe they'll bring it back.
Be super fun for the Skylands.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not something you need, but it's something that would just kind of speed up the flow of gameplay. So it's something that you would get later into the game. Yeah, it would be really cool.
Because you're gonna need to probably climb up pretty high consistently. And I mean, there's no fast travel, but still, they're gonna want to make it faster for you to get up to higher elevations much quicker throughout the game.
You know what? I don't know what they're gonna. I really don't. Right? It's a guess. It's a guess because I think there's gonna be dungeons, but what kind of rewards do we get for the dungeons? Right? And to your point, Brandon, like if we have a blacksmith to like power ourselves up, I'm not sure what they do there, and I feel like they have to remix the Great Fairies. If they just kind of rehash their exact same role, that would be weird.
Right.
So it's tough.
I don't know, because I'm not really sure, because they could technically fulfill the same role, but just have some kind of limit so that way like certain weapons just can't become overpowered by just constantly upgrading them, if that makes sense. So I don't know, maybe they could still do that. I'm not really sure. Maybe
what they could do is they could add enhancements to your weapons. So you know how like in Breath of the Wild, weapons would have an additional kind of effect, like durability up, or like they like far throw or something like that, or extra strength. Maybe they can add an enhancement to your already existing weapon, and that's what they do.
Like an enchantment, I suppose.
Some kind of enchantment, exactly. Yeah. They use their fairy magic to enchant some sort of additional effect to a weapon you have.
That's actually making me think, because
and maybe each Great Fairy does a different kind. Like maybe one is about building up durability, another one's like attack up, another one is defense up, or what have you, or you know, like that. That's how they differentiate between each other.
have we seen how the I forgot what they're called, but the items with the batteries, like the fans, for instance, have we seen how those items interact with the elements necessarily? Like,
No.
would it be possible to? I don't, here's an idea: use electricity to charge the battery. Like, I know it recharges on its own, but maybe you could make batteries last longer if you have some kind of electricity feeding to it in
Sure.
some fashion.
I'm gonna tell you my first personal thought on that is that the energy source is not electricity, but Zonai magic.
True.
Even
Right.
though it's a battery symbol, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
one would think.
But that's what comes
Yeah.
to mind, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe, maybe.
Right.
Good
Because I
stuff.
could see a thing, like a situation where maybe you might use an enchanted weapon that has like electricity on it too, or maybe Zonai magic. Maybe they enchant a weapon with some kind of Zonai, spell magic of some kind, and then you could use that to kind of combine with, like, I don't know, a ship or something, or an air machine or whatever you want to call it, and you could make the fans last longer. Maybe something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I definitely think there is going to be a way to extend battery life because we're going to have hovercrafts. How do we get better battery life out of those devices, right?
Right.
Because we saw in the footage that there was a fan boat thing that lifted Link for like 3 seconds, but as we saw from the battery consumption, it was going to crash any moment. So, yeah, they need something more
since
significant.
it is like Zonai magic, and Link seems to have an arm full of Zonai magic, I wonder if you can upgrade the battery, like by upgrading Link in some way, like kind of like a magic meter. Because we do see like batteries as well on one thing on a car,
Yeah.
but we don't see like a battery strapped to the flying machine that he's using for extensive period of time in the year. So I'm not really sure why that has.
It might be the
way
angle.
better battery life.
It might just be the angle, but I mean, I also don't remember seeing it either, so I'm not sure. I'll tell you this, Brandon. So we've seen from the trailers that Link has this kind of like side piece, the side item that has like these different like green little canisters on them.
Right.
It's not in the latest footage. So I mean, I think that this footage where Link, the gameplay demonstration is Link very early on. Actually, I can pretty much confirm that. One thing I didn't realize before, I just kind of assumed, but I assumed correctly, is that Link only has 4 hearts, right? Well, if you look at the very end of the footage where Link is in the water, you can see he only has a whole single circle of a stamina wheel, meaning they didn't upgrade the stamina and they just upgraded the hearts. And that was an assumption I made, but looking at the footage fully, like that is confirmed. So he's only gotten 1 power if we go by Breath of the Wild metrics. So very, very early on to the game, he may not have that item yet. And that item, it looked like it was like these green little containers that could go store up to like maybe 8 or 10.
Right.
That could be battery life extenders.
Yeah.
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 And perhaps that may all right. This is me going this is me going extra here, and I could be wrong on this. But what if each tier is basically more Zonai magic, like it's a liquid, and you store it in there, and every time you get a tier, it increases your battery capacity, and that just allows you to go even further.
So I guess,
and the thing is, in order to beat the game, you have to be able to get to the very top, because the very top is the moon, and the moon is where Ganon is. There we go. Call me crazy. Call me crazy.
Man now.
Yeah, I'm a moon man, but I mean, come on, it makes sense, doesn't it? It kind of makes sense.
You had to be in the first half.
Yeah, well,
not gonna lie.
I may have lost in the third quarter, but don't you worry. I'll get you by overtime.
I mean, it's probably gonna be a resource that you're gonna collect in some fashion. Like
some fashion.
Tiers, yeah.
We've seen a battery symbol on the map actually, so there's something.
Yeah.
There's definitely something about the battery ability.
It's gonna remind me a lot of the Aether, what was it called? The canisters you had to collect in Xenoblade 3. The
Ether.
Ether canisters.
Yeah, the Ether canisters. Yeah, you would find the Ether ravines or whatever. You collect some that you power up those machines.
You always had way too much because
Yes.
they barely ever needed it.
Yeah, I would find them all the time, but I would never use it. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that, but I will also like to add that if that is the case and that's going to be what we're doing, I would hope that it is used a lot more often than in Xenoblade 3, because I do like the game, but that was never an issue in that game, and I would, for a game like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, where a lot of it is going to be like management and figuring out problem solving with the situation you dealt with. If it was too easy to have access to that all the time without really too much effort, then I think it'll be a little too easy in that regard. But I would like to see it being a little bit like, maybe not scarce, but at least have me put in at least a little bit of effort to specifically go and get them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
have
could
it used
see it
often
going
enough.
either way, as a
Yeah.
permanent upgrade or something that you need to collect in the environment. And to be honest, like if Xenoblade 3 had like mechs that were powered off of ether, that ability would have been way cooler. So like flying machines and different things that you can build based off of like things you can find in the environment would be fun.
You're just making me miss Xenoblade X. What
X
a
is
game!
great.
I mean,
What
yeah.
a game! What a
X
game!
is great.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've been waiting on that next Monolith Soft game that's an evolution of Xenoblade X. It's an MMO that we play together. But anyways,
I want an X remaster.
yeah, I want to move on though because there's still a lot to get through. I got another super chat here actually from Lunatunes. What's up, Lunatunes? How you doing, buddy? Lunatunes says or asks, over under Tears of the Kingdom has time travel. Well, I mean, I would say we sort of already have certain levels of time travel if you account for recall. Recall reverses the time of objects. And here's something that some of you may not have realized, some of you may have if you watch other Zelda theorists, but something that I noticed recently while looking through frame data, or not frame data, I mean just frames. It's information, but it's just looking at the frames from the trailers, frame by frame. But anyways, there is a when you take a look at the rune for recall, and you look at the trailer where they had the development update, where it's kind of Link pulls out the Master Sword, you'll notice that his hand has the recall rune, and there's that glow. So the implication is he's about to use recall while he's holding the Master Sword. They may be using recall or a form of recall to reverse the time that has been spent on the Master Sword in order to restore it. Very much kind of like, so if any of you are fans of Bleach,
Hell yeah.
Inoue, is that her name? I forgot. Oh no, Orihime. Yeah, the orange hair girl.
I'm so bad with names. I didn't even remember them while I was watching the
No, Ino is from Naruto. Anyways, Orihime, pretty sure, she has this ability where she can. It's actually like people don't realize how special it is until like the third or fourth major arc. But her ability is basically she can heal people or regenerate them by effectively kind of erasing the event in time where they were injured, if that makes any sense. So it's not like regeneration in the sense that, oh, you're healing my arm. It's reversing the history of the event where it was damaged. So the recall ability might be doing some sort of like specific time travel in the sense that it can reverse the history of events occurring, as it does with the blocks that we've seen go backing up to the sky. It's reversing the history of them falling down. In one of the earlier trailers for Tears of the Kingdom, it reverses the history of this metal spike ball. And as we see in the development update teaser, the little like 7-second little piece of footage, Link is using recall on the Master Sword, potentially reversing that history of it being damaged, which is kind of cool. It is a form of time travel. So yes, time travel, just maybe not in the way some people are kind of thinking.
Yeah, I doubt there's gonna be like full scale time travel like Ocarina of Time or anything, where the whole map goes forward or back in amount of years. I doubt that's gonna happen. That just seems like an insane amount of work.
Andres, you're just ready to say something.
I just don't know how much I should reveal now. It's just a theory. It's not like it's nothing I know behind the scenes. It's just a theory. But recall might be a bigger deal than you realize. I mean, I feel like what I just explained is a pretty big deal. But if you can reverse the time of objects, what else can you reverse the time of? And while I don't think there will be time travel to the point where you're reversing an entire world, what if recall is used to rebuild some cities?
Maybe. I mean,
Maybe.
it has a very short time that they can go back in time, but there might be another ability similar to recall. I mean, because Ultra Hand and Fuse are also very similar, but they do kind of separate things. So there might be an ability kind of like recall that can do like further back in time on different things.
Yeah.
Or it might just be like an upgrade to recall that only works for certain objects.
Yeah. There's another
I mean,
angle. Go on, Shifty.
I was just gonna say that there could be just a larger version of recall, like a wider scale version of the same thing that's gonna be relevant in the story. Considering that
Right.
Link can do that to those falling objects for a limited time because it's just his hand, right? But what if there's a much larger scale, I don't know, construct of some kind that allows you to do a lot more than that, like go further back and with a larger area of effect, maybe?
Right.
That could be cool.
And so what's fascinating about this recall, it's that it's the idea that it's reversing the history of something, right? It's not like you going all the way back in time to the period. It's kind of like it's what's fascinating about it is that what it's doing, it's basically erasing pieces of history, if that makes sense. You know? And it's creating a kind of like a new timeline when you think about it. Because you're basically, every time you use recall, you're eliminating that period of time that allowed that event to occur where an object fell down, right? Or where the Master Sword was damaged, or maybe where a city was destroyed if Link does find a way, to your point, Shifty, to do it on a larger scale. That's kind of a cool concept, I would say. But another element I'll throw out about potential time travel: the constructs bear a strong resemblance to the ancient robots from Skyward Sword, and the ancient robots had to do a lot with the time shift stones. I'm not saying the time shift stones would return, but if they did, I wouldn't be totally shocked either. Now, time shift stones would just be another like weird variation of time travel that would just be temporary. That would create some cool environments for some cool puzzles, but all temporary. Nothing that would be permanent. Nothing that would be like, hey, we're going to resurrect the dead champions or something like that. Like, I think some people look at like
limited areas.
Yeah, exactly. I can maybe see something like that for puzzles.
Yeah, I
It
could see that
definitely
being
wouldn't
based.
be like something you could move around the whole map and see like that changes back in time. It'd be like for a limited area for puzzle reasons.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, anyways, let me kind of get through a chat here real quick. I'm gonna be a little bit more like Spitfire, and then we'll talk about the Mario movie. Carlo, can I attach Kaku to a shield and attack my enemies with it? I want to say yes. I feel like that. I feel like that's like really. I'd be surprised if they don't let you do that.
As long as I can put a fan on my shield and push everyone off the islands, I'll be happy.
You can you can pick up a rock. You can attach a rock to your shield. You can pick up a Kaku. You can attach a Kaku to your shield. You can pick up a fan. You can attach a fan to your shield. So I think all of this is correct.
Leaves are going to be so much more, like Kokiri leaves, going to be so much more useful in this game.
Yeah.
Just for blowing things right off islands, or shooting your arrow and with one attached to blow it off. That's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot we're going to be able to mess around with.
with the ragdoll physics, it's gonna be hilarious.
Moving on here, just kind of looking through the chat. Dragon Chi, have you heard of the rumor that Henry Cavill, actor who plays Superman, is in negotiations with Illumination to voice Link in a Zelda movie? My goddess did talk about that in a recent video. It's one of those things where the source is from Giant Freaking Robot, where, you know, I'm gonna wait. They've made a lot of reports about different Nintendo movie things. I'm gonna wait until some of them start to be proven true. Like, once Nintendo announces this other movie, once Nintendo announces Donkey Kong movie, other things that Giant Freaking Robot has reported on, then I'll start to take them a little bit more seriously. But, you know, maybe. And being in negotiations doesn't mean it's going to happen. So that's something else to consider. But, you know, I don't think, I mean, I think that could be a good fit, though, depending on the direction they go. I'm not saying that would be bad. Dr. Kokiri, what if that
for an older Link?
What? Yeah, it would definitely be for an
cool.
older Link. Exactly. Dr. Kokiri asks me, what if that glider just shows that Link is the Green Goblin? He's got pointy ears and green clothes all the time. April Fools. No, you're right. He Link's the Green Goblin, and he's Spider-Man at the same time. That's just crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
You do it all.
Hello there, Charles Riddell. Yeah. Anyways. Let's all right, I'll get this last chat here. Charles Riddell. Yeah, the specific time was canceled and replaced in your own timeline for the old time exists, but is no longer your own. I'm not sure. See, the thing is that sometimes I see chats, I'm not sure what they were referring to in the time they were said.
They're referring to the recall ability and the fact that when you change time on it, it doesn't change time for the rest of it, so it's like a new time for
it. Basically what I think Charles is saying here is that the timeline still exists, but it's not yours. Maybe. Time's crazy because you can have basically infinite timelines, but yeah. So I got another super chat here from Dragon Chi. Dragon Chi says, I just had a crazy thought. What if fusing a fairy to an item repairs it? Ooh, that's a really good idea.
It'd be really funny if it had an opposite effect, though, and you put a fairy on your shield and it just heals the enemy for hitting the shield.
It would be funny if the fairy's basically just duct taped to the shield and it's just kind of like sitting there about to get hurt, which would be kind of cruel. Yeah. Zach Johnson, I need vehicle storage. Well, actually, maybe that's an interesting request, because we talked about earlier how there's a battery symbol in the maps. What if the battery symbol is like the equivalent to like the stables? And so stables are for storing your horses. Maybe there will be places to store your vehicles.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
I wouldn't want to build a vehicle and just be like, no, it's stuck here unless I move it. Like, awesome. I would like to have a way to actually, like, yeah, like you could do with the horses, just be able to go and get a pre-made thing.
Yeah.
I would be shocked, honestly, if you couldn't do that and you had to just either go find something you've already made or go build something else every single time.
Yeah. No, it makes sense to be able to store them, but we'll see how they handle that. So let's now jump into the Mario movie discussion. When are we going to watch this movie, guys? I mean, I know when I'm watching. I already booked my tickets.
Oh. I never see movies the day it comes out because there's always way too many people. And I like to go to movies where there's like barely anybody there. I'm not one of those people who likes to get hyped with the crowd. I'm like, shut up and let me enjoy the movie. So I like it when there's like basically nobody in the theater but me and like whoever I'm invited to come with the movie with me. So I'll probably see it like a week or two after it comes out.
Okay, I do understand that.
Boat.
Go on, Shifty.
No, I was gonna say I think I'm just in a similar boat. Like every time I've seen a movie that I really wanted to see, it's usually maybe like the week after it released, because I want to be able to hear what's happening. You know, You know, if someone makes a cool reference to something from like a past Mario game, and I don't get to hear it because the other guy next to me is yelling about something that happened before that, it's gonna be a little annoying. So
Bro, I want subtitles. Like, I can't, even when there's nobody yelling, it's hard for me to understand movies a lot of times. Like, I want them subtitles on.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I do actually like subtitles as well when I watch movies. I'll tell you that I didn't really think about the audience ruining my watching experience for the Mario movie, but I do feel that I need to watch it pretty soon. So I'm watching it Wednesday night. I was gonna try and go to a midnight showing, but there were no midnight showings available when I tried to order it on Fandango a couple days ago. So yeah, that just wasn't an option for me. That said, I'm watching it on Wednesday, and I'm hoping the audience doesn't ruin the experience for me. But even then, I'm probably gonna watch it at least a second time this upcoming weekend. Maybe I might even watch it 3 times. So
I have
you're
literally
gonna be
never
the
seen a
reason Billy
movie.
Holmes.
I've never seen a movie in theaters more than once per movie, like ever in my life.
I've done it.
There have been times where I've wanted to, but I've just never actually done that. But
There's-
it's very rare that I ever want to watch a movie again so soon. But maybe the Mario movie will be just that good.
There's a few movies that I would rewatch. The Dragon Ball movie, like I watched Dragon Ball Broly, Dragon Ball Superhero. Yeah, there's a few movies I would rewatch a couple times. And the Mario movie, maybe one. It's also only 90 minutes, right? Like it's not like a long watch,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit more digestible.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna see it that many times, you know, you're certainly gonna make the poll answer a lot easier to make happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have fools
Go
like
ahead
me
and
that
make it
keep
a
going
2
back.
opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is
Just
that
see it every day
I'm
of the
gonna be
month.
analyzing the movie, so I don't know if I'll make any videos on it. Kind of depends, but I might.
I mean, the
I might.
first time you watch it, you just enjoy it. The second time, you bring out the clipboard and start taking notes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Secretly, illegally filming so you can get better references.
Yeah, actually, it'll be cool. Like, I would love to like make a video like pointing out every like cameo I've noticed in the movie, but that would require having footage of the movie to like point out in a video. Because I could just say it, but if you don't have a point of reference, it's a little weird, right?
Yeah. I like how I said you could illegally film it, and your reaction was just, that would be so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I won't because it's illegal, but
Right.
you know,
We don't do that here.
no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Called the law.
No, I mean, I
Never.
don't. I first off, like, for me, it's not even an ethical thing. It's just like, how can I get the movie to be high quality? Well, there is an ethical. Just to be clear, there is an ethical. There's an ethical barrier. But even
Stop
if I were
talking,
to, if I were even if I'm gonna continue to dig this hole. But even if there wasn't an ethical barrier, which there is an ethical barrier. I don't want to like watch like a hampered version of the movie. I want to see it in a high quality version. So if I were to, like, record that stuff with like a shaky camera where people are making noise or that, no, that I don't. I'm not
exactly why you're bringing the 8K Sony camera out.
Still not direct. It's still not a direct feed. It's not the same. It's not the same. So no, I'd rather just wait to watch it in good quality. So yeah.
I wonder what streaming services it will be on, if any, eventually. Probably not.
There is speculation that it'll be on Peacock, just because of the whole Universal deal thing. I personally doubt that, but I know Mike Odyssey somewhere is screaming Peacock.
Not a fan of that decision.
No.
No, me neither.
To be honest, though, maybe it would be better than Netflix. I honestly don't want to pay, what is it, like $20 a month now for that?
Yeah.
Is it?
For the record, we don't know where
ridiculous.
I don't know what streaming app it's going to be on. Maybe it will be on Netflix. I'm just telling you what Mike Odyssey has said, which makes sense because of the whole Universal deal thing. But we'll see what Nintendo actually decides to do. And yes, the background music currently is Meridia from Super Metroid. It's super creepy and cool. Yep. Anyway, So, do you guys have any expectations for the Mario movie? Do you think it's gonna be good? Do you think it's gonna be like what are your kind of feelings on it going in?
I am extremely excited for it. I've seen some people's reactions to it. Nothing like talking about what the movie was, obviously, just like how they felt after it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been nothing but like rave reviews. And so, I mean, all the trailers have progressively been getting better and better. And I don't know if they went back. In fact, I'm pretty sure they did go back, and that there's some lines we saw from previous trailers that are actually different. But Chris Pratt sounds better than when he was first shown. And I don't know if it's I don't know if it's because of the line changes or how even extensive the line changes are, because we're not sure exactly. Or if it's just that it's growing on me, but I'm not upset about the voice in the latest trailers. Like, I'm getting less and less upset about it. And I wasn't really that, like, I didn't think it was that bad to begin with, but I didn't think it was really any good either. And now I'm kind of thinking it's actually, like, pretty good. So I'm excited for it. And there's just, like, every single thing we see about this movie gets me more and more excited. And it's just, like, I don't know. I was excited as soon as they announced it was Illumination because I actually like their movies and I think they're a good studio. I didn't understand why people were hating on like Despicable Me because I actually really like the first movie. The other ones are like okay, but the first one's actually really good. So I don't know. I'm really excited for it, and I wish that there wasn't gonna be so crowded because I would see it day one.
Yeah. From what I've watched a few different interviews with Chris Pratt and see him speak on the movie. I think some people have accused him of not being a Mario fan because I do think in some interviews he's been very vague. But upon closer inspection and listening to him even more and getting a little bit more context for what he's thinking and just kind of like the background he's coming from, I actually think he's a legitimate like Nintendo fan. He actually has played a lot of different Mario games in the past. And there are times when he speaks, it's like, "Whoa, yeah, he knew that. Oh, he knew that. That's interesting." Like he actually is a Mario fan. Like he actually has played a lot of the games. He's not like just someone who took the job because like this is someone who legitimately understands the character. And sometimes he kind of explain where they were coming from. He's like, but at the same time, though, there was an interview I saw that came out this past weekend where he was questioned on the kind of the backlash, right, and how some people don't feel like he's doing a good job or what have you. And he said, "Listen, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, listen, I understand where you're coming from, right? I understand that you guys are very passionate and you understand their roots, and there are some mentions about the Italian take and all of that." And what he said was that they honored the roots of Mario here, and that he just says, "Watch the movie." Like he feels he's very committal to that. He's like, "Listen, watch the movie and then come back and tell me how you feel then," right? So, my take is that Chris Pratt is actually pretty genuine. And I understand there are certain interviews that may have seemed like not the case because of how ambiguous things were, but when you get a more broad picture of what he's saying and where he's coming from, I think he's pretty genuine. And actually, speaking on to the voice itself, from what I've heard, I also feel similarly branded. I'm not sure if they changed it or if I've just gotten more used to it, or it's just larger sample size where we're kind of hearing it under different context, and all of a sudden it's like, huh, that actually sounds pretty good. And it's not just like Chris Pratt's voice. It's Chris Pratt kind of doing a voice that would be Mario under those circumstances. So, I feel pretty good about it. The one voice that I am a little apprehensive on is actually Donkey Kong from Seth Rogen. I still very much get the Seth Rogen in a Donkey Kong costume. What?
Well, I mean, Seth Rogen himself said that he's just doing his voice. He's not doing a voice for Donkey Kong.
No, and the funny part is that, and the funny part is that if I were to pick an actor to like a live action actor to play Donkey Kong, I would Seth Rogen to be one of my top picks because he does kind of fit that. It's just I hear Seth Rogen so badly. Yeah. But you know, we haven't heard Donkey Kong as much.
He's just a name. It's just because he's a big name. Like if Seth Rogen was like an unknown actor playing the role, I think he would be really good.
He still might be really good.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good, but it's like not gonna be as immersive because we know what he sounds like.
Yeah,
because he's a very popular actor, so or voice actor.
Yeah,
he's a popular guy.
Yeah. What do you think, Shifty?
Well, I'm looking forward to the movie. I will add in that when it comes to Chris Pratt as Mario, I don't feel like my opinion has changed necessarily. I think I just kind of got over it, if that makes sense. Like I used to be a little more critical of him at the beginning. I don't really care as much now, and I don't think it's because the performance was noticeably better, or maybe the parts that I've heard now in the newer trailers are better. For me, I feel I don't know. For me, I feel like it's basically the same in terms of how I feel about it. I think it's just I've gotten used to hearing it for so long now. It's been a couple of months since we've first heard Chris Pratt as Mario, that it's just kind of I'm just accepting it. This is just acceptance. This is just I'm over it. This is what he sounds like. All right, I'm used to it now. It is what it is, and I'm just gonna watch the movie. And it's not like I was never angry about it. You know what I mean? Like it was never to that extent. But I don't think, at least in my opinion, that it improved. It just sounds like the same to me as the first time I've heard it.
More accepted the take he's going for because he's in a lot of scenes. I think he's going for a completely different take than even the other language voice actors are going for, which are a lot more traditional Mario. Like he's going for a more serious, lower tone, less energetic take. Like in the very first footage we ever saw of the movie, where he's like, Mushroom Kingdom, here we go. I don't think that was meant to be an energetic thing. I think that was just him having a more serious take on it. He was just not, he wasn't trying to do a let's go or anything like that. But that was what people were expecting. So I think people were assuming that's the highest energy that Mario would get in the movie. And I just don't think that's the case.
Or they're just expecting what they're used to. We're used to hearing Mario constantly be more high pitched, more energetic, right? And if the only impression we have of Mario is not a line that would, make sense for him to do that, then it's gonna come off as out of place for a lot of people who are not used to that, the take that you're referring to. So
exactly.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I'm looking forward to the movie. I'm excited for it. I really want to see it. And the feelings that you have, Andres, when it comes to what high profile actor you would expect to play Donkey Kong, that you would pick Seth Rogen for that, I basically feel the same way, but with Charlie Day as Luigi. I feel like if you would have told me, hey, pick a A-list actor to play Luigi, he's one of the first I would have thought of.
Yeah. I mean, I think Luigi's great. I think Charlie Day's doing a great job as Luigi. Yeah, I mean, I think they're both just good fits, but I don't know. Charlie Day hasn't really I haven't gotten any weird feelings. Yeah, I think I just gotta watch the movie. We've just gotten very small little bits of them, and it's hard to say for sure until we watch the movie.
Right, because we could definitely be going off of the appearance-wise, they look like this character they would fit, or their voice in other roles sounds like it could fit this character. But the performance is a whole other thing.
Right.
Their performance in the role could be the difference between whether or not they actually did a good job in the movie or not.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna see. We're gonna find out really soon. And for me, it's gonna be in less than 48 hours, which I'm excited. I'm excited to watch the movie. I can't wait. I hope the audience is really obnoxious. So don't be. I realize that probably no one in that audience is gonna be watching the stream. But if you are,
if you notice Andres is in the crowd, shut up.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter if everybody else in the audience is cheering because it's the most hype part of the movie. You better sit in that seat and be quiet.
There you go. Yeah. Now the good news is I'm not watching it. You know, the thing is when you do watch it the first day, you do get a lot of that. I'm technically it's still the first day, but it's like not a midnight release. I don't know. Oh, please, just don't ruin it for me, humans. Don't ruin it for me.
Now he's thinking about it. We put that in his head. And
yeah,
now he's
you
thinking
did.
about it
You
constantly.
did. I wasn't worried about it until now.
What have we done?
I really wasn't. You guys really did kind of put this fear in me.
I mean, it probably won't be as bad. I mean, because by comparison, I'm referring to like the few times I've watched like a Marvel film or Star Wars, which is very.
It's a
very fanatical audience,
right?
Without like a lot of people there, like some people want that like energy. Maybe you'll enjoy it. Maybe the hype scenes will be more hype. Everybody cheering.
It is more of
just cheering and actually being like respectful. Then it can be good.
Yeah, it's definitely a preference thing. Like all those clips you've seen of Avengers Endgame of people getting hyped and excited and cheering and that kind of thing. Some people like that. Me, not so much.
Okay, so for anyone in the chat who's listening, this is my personal opinion, and this doesn't mean I hate you, but I'm the kind of person that cringes hardcore whenever I'm in an airplane and we land and people start to clap. I'm like, yes, it's an airplane. Okay. It landed.
Yeah, they do that.
They do that.
That's why.
And I'm like,
as well clap when you get to your destination in a car because that's way more dangerous.
Yeah.
People, they do that.
Now, I for a movie, clapping at the end of a movie, I mean, it is meant to be a performance, so it's a little different, but no one's there to receive the claps.
Yeah.
You know?
Never once in my life have I been to a movie where people clapped at the end.
Really?
Yeah. That's never happened.
Man, we live in different worlds, Brandon.
I've been to places where there's like...
I want to live in your world, where people don't clap.
A dozen seats, free. Maybe it's like not full, but it's not like empty. But nobody claps. They just like, people barely even cheer. Like, it's pretty quiet, pretty chill.
Yeah.
There might be more children at the Mario movie.
Yeah, man, that makes sense. I mean,
possible.
if there is, that's a good thing because that means a lot more movie ticket sales.
Yeah.
Which brings me back to the poll.
Cheaper tickets.
Yeah. So we put up a poll 43 minutes ago. We have 106 votes, and I had asked, will the Mario movie exceed 1 billion and be the most popular Illumination movie ever? I'm gonna end the poll now. So yeah, maybe 10 seconds to put in a vote. I'll count.
Probably
5.
actually already ended because of.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm counting off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, I ended the poll. 78% said yes, the Mario movie will exceed $1 billion in revenue and be the most popular Illumination movie ever.
Very confident. A lot of confidence in here.
Yeah. We're also biased Nintendo fans.
Yeah, that's true. That's very fair.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is though, my understanding is that Mario is a pretty big deal. Yeah,
I mean,
that's just the YouTube being weird. The answer is 22% said no. Yeah, it says 21% in the chat, but it's 22. What are you gonna say, Shifty?
I was just gonna agree with you and say that Mario's a huge franchise, so I don't see it being unlikely. The only thing that makes it unlikely to me is the fact that so little movies have done it, but a lot of the movies that did are relatively modern movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Movie industry in general just seems to be bigger than it was.
Right. And when we look at the list, I'm like, okay, those are the kind of movies that do it. The Mario movie feels like it would do that. Like, just to kind of go over the list here for you so you kind of see where I'm coming from.
There's a good amount of animated movies in that list, I believe. Yeah,
so I'm going to go... So here it's showing... It's a wiki, but it's probably accurate. Or close to accurate. It's saying the top 50 highest grossing movies. So you ready? So Avatar Avengers. I'm doing it in order. Avatar: The Way of Water, Titanic, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Avengers: Infinity War, Spider-Man: No Way Home, Jurassic World, Lion King, Avengers, Furious 7, Top Gun: Maverick, Frozen 2, Avengers: Age of Ultron, Black Panther, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, Frozen, Beauty and the Beast, Incredibles 2, The Fast and the Furious, it's a misspelling, Iron Man 3, probably a misspelling, Minions, Captain America: Civil War, Aquaman, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, Spider-Man: Far From Home, Captain Marvel, Transformers: Dark of the Moon, Skyfall. I mean, do I have to continue? Like, it's pretty clear what with these kind of movies, like, you know, it's basically a whole bunch of Disney movies, animated movies, and superhero movies. And I would
relevant data.
Yeah, so the Mario movie I would put in that category. Like, these are a lot of movies that kind of fit the Mario movie is animated. It's an Illumination movie. Some Illumination movies are in this list. And it's also a video game movie. It's hitting upon that Disney superhero realm, the nerd realm.
You misheard me. I think you misheard me. I said I have relevant information to share. I'm saying I have something to tell you.
Go.
Okay, so I have the Sonic movie revenue and the Sonic 2 movie revenue, which I think are very relevant because they're kind of like the most popular recent video game movies. So we got the first one is $320 million, and the second one is $405 million. So nearly $500 million there for Sonic 2, but nowhere near $1 billion. However, Mario is infinitesimally more popular than Sonic. No, they rivaled back in the day, but these days it's not even close.
I mean, I would expect the Mario movie to perform at least double. Let's also point out the Sonic movie is a live action. Mario movie is an animated movie. I feel a Mario movie is probably gonna hit the kid market a lot better.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, we got Mario movie. Go on.
I'm just saying the Sonic movie is less obviously for kids.
Yeah. Mario movie feels a lot more mainstream. You also got there's a whole McDonald's like Mario movie promotional set. There is the Mario Lego stuff. I mean, you have a literal theme park for Mario. Like the Mario marketing just seems to be far grander than the Sonic stuff. Like, yeah.
Right.
It's gonna do way better than the Sonic movie did in Sonic movie 2. So.
Yeah. Well, Mario's a much bigger brand than Sonic.
Yeah.
So if Sonic could at its best get close to half of $1 billion, I think the Mario movie can double pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of things going for them.
Yeah. I mean,
it's an established franchise. A lot of the top movies are established franchises. A lot of them are also animated. Illumination specifically has 2 of them that has also achieved that. There's a lot of things going for it that shows that it's... I don't know how likely, but it does feel likely that it could happen. It hits a lot of the right boxes, I guess. It ticks all the right boxes to me.
Yeah. If any of the Nintendo movies are going to gross over $1 billion, it's going to be the Mario movie, most likely.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we might even be like, watch it become the best movie ever.
Based on what metric?
Based on hype.
Avatar 2 is at like $4 billion or something ridiculous.
Oh, it probably wouldn't be an Avatar. I don't think it'd be. I mean,
if it's gonna be like in the top 3 most.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance it's gonna be Avatar 2.
I don't know.
I don't think there's it's gonna be like probably another 10 years before a movie beats Avatar 2.
Yeah, it might. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I'm surprised The Dark Knight is only ranked 50. Maybe because it's not a kids movie.
Comic book movie, so it is the most popular comic book movie to ever released. I'm pretty sure, but it's still a comic book movie, so it doesn't surprise me too much.
So the Avengers and all the Marvel movies don't count, or?
Oh well. DC. It's not very popular.
I
Sure.
think isn't Joker up there too, or
It is.
Wow.
It's even
I
higher.
think Joker was
It's a lot newer though. Newer movies just perform better. It's a larger
Yeah.
audience nowadays.
But I think what made Joker
Comic book
surprising is
movies
it was
for
an
the
R-rated
time.
movie.
Yeah.
Comic book movies for the time were also like, it was one of the my bigger point. I should have clarified. It's more of like one of the first big comic book movies, so it doesn't surprise me because back then they were very much not that popular.
Yeah.
Until like Spider-Man and The Dark Knight were like the two big ones.
Yeah. Oh, The Dark Knight Rises is even higher, actually. So, okay. I mean, I do think a lot of it probably comes down to just, just sales isn't necessarily indicative of quality, right? Like there are some amazing movies that are not on this list. These are clearly, like, I mean, I'm a nerd, right? So this is not an insult, but these are obviously these are nerd movies, like I mean, in a good way,
marketable.
But, right? Yeah.
Yeah, most mainstream.
Right.
Yeah.
They're the most marketable. I think the biggest surprises are probably maybe Avatar in general, mostly because it's off of James Cameron's success, right? Like everyone loves, a lot of people like him, right? And Joker because it was an R-rated movie. I don't think there's many R-rated movies that has generated that much money.
Joker was just such an amazing movie, though.
It was good.
Yeah, it was. It was a very good movie.
Very good. Yeah. But so to kind of move on with the topic, I want to ask you guys about something here. Apparently, there is some post-credit stuff.
Right.
Confirmed.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but there's some post-credit stuff. In fact, there's two. There's two post-credit scenes. One that happens in the middle of the credits, apparently, and one that happens at the very, very end of all the credits. So when you watch the movie...
When you really have to pee and you want to leave.
You don't. You go to the bathroom before the movie. That is that simple. That's what you do.
I guess it is a pretty short movie.
It's a short movie. It's a short movie. If you're...
I'm used to like 3
hours long. Oh, God. That's another pet peeve of mine. I hate it when I go with friends and family to the movies and we sit down and when the movie starts, they go to the bathroom. I'm like, we're paying to watch this movie. Why are you skipping part of the movie?
You just sat down like 10 minutes for the previews and then you decide that once the previews are over to go to the bathroom.
I'm very particular. When I've chosen to watch something and I'm gonna watch it and not just like in passing, I get upset when I don't like give it my full attention. Like I don't like it when people are like, oh, just get up and but you might miss something. So all of these movies have little subtle details that only show up for a frame or two. If you step away, you will miss that. So no. I'm not a fan. That's me. That's me. That's me. And I'm not saying I can't be chill and lax. I can be. But if you have chosen to sit down and watch the movie, you better go to the bathroom before watching the movie. That's all I'm saying.
Otherwise, you've chosen death.
Otherwise, you paid money to use the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you gotta go, you gotta go.
Fair,
but...
You do usually get paid to use the bathroom if you work a job where.
Okay, I was like, what?
They
pay you to go to the bathroom in the theater? What?
No, but like if you're at a job, so you're just giving back.
Yeah, Jean-Carl asked me, Chris Pratt confirmed there's just one post-credit scene, NCU confirmed, and Nintendo Cinematic Universe. Yeah, there's something at the very end. There's like something during the credits too, but the big thing's at the end apparently. So, yeah.
They're gonna just copy Marvel like early on when Marvel was first starting the universe, and just have like, cause they just had Captain America's shield just somewhere at the end of like one of the movies.
Something,
which one was.
Something subtle. I don't remember. I don't remember. They
have like. Just pan over to the side and you just see the Master Sword like stabbed into the ground somewhere.
Oh, pretty cool.
That's it. That'll be it. You don't need any more than that.
If they did a Donkey Kong movie next, though, especially because the Donkey Kong expansion for the theme park, which I really wish was the Zelda expansion, which is how I'm really gonna feel about it when they announce a Donkey Kong movie. So.
Yeah.
the man
Maybe Luigi's
I
Mansion.
would wish for Zelda.
Luigi's
Dude,
Mansion.
Yeah, I think Charlie Day said he wanted a Luigi's Mansion movie.
I want Luigi's
I'd
Mansion.
be
movie.
hyped, bro.
Man, I want Lord Luigi's
I
Mansion
want
games.
Luigi's Mansion 4, bro.
I want Luigi's Mansion 1, bro. I want them to remake that again and better for the Switch. I don't want this cartoony look. I want like the dark, moody look. You know what? Since we're on the note of dark and moody, where's my Resident Evil 4? I should probably just play it on PlayStation or my PC. Huh? Probably could get away with that. Anyway, I just wish it was on a Nintendo system because initially came out on a Nintendo system. Yeah, I probably could play it on PC. I lost you because the construct voice again.
Bro.
Yep.
Yeah. Can't. Yeah. And for all I know, you
play
could
it on
be
PC. If anything, I think that's the message.
Probably. Yeah. He's probably like play on PC. He's also probably telling me to upgrade my CPU though. And I'm like, yeah. I know. I upgraded my graphics card recently.
I wonder how the game runs on Steam Deck. Might actually do that.
That sounds pretty cool, actually. It does sound cool.
I gotta figure out what the frame rate is looking like on that thing now. Make sure it doesn't just chug the whole time or something.
Yeah.
It'd probably be fine though. Probably maybe like 30, 40 frames maybe.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure.
I see. I was connected to the wrong Wi-Fi. I see.
This doesn't surprise me.
I was indeed telling you that you could play it on PC. Yeah, I was saying.
Oh, I thought you were telling me to upgrade my CPU.
I mean, you might have to. I forget what CPU you have.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Resident Evil 4, the remake is pretty demanding, oddly so. I mean, it does look extremely good, but it's a little more demanding than you would expect. So I don't think it would run very well on the Switch. I was also trying to say, like, I don't think they could make a very good port considering. I think that they could, like, that's technically
they
possible.
could just a cloud
Somebody
version
could
with
come
an
in and
Ethernet
make
cable.
one, but I don't think they're going to. Like, it would take a lot of time because it's a very, very geometrically dense like game. I don't think they could push that many polygons on Switch or even close. So they'd probably have to re-author like most of the assets in the game in order to make a good Switch version. I just don't think they're going to do that.
This is what's going to happen. Switch 2 is going to come out this holiday. Elden Ring and Resident Evil 4 Remake are going to be exclusive to the Switch 2. And there's going to be cost... Well, they're exclusive to Switch 2, as in not Switch 1.
Okay. Yeah, I was very confused what you meant by that at first.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I know
they're going to take them off the PlayStation, Xbox.
We're moving...
Just obliterate those games
exactly.
from those storefronts.
Exactly. And then Ashley is going to get a Zero Suit skin. And Leon's going to get the Princess Zelda skin. So he's going to run around in a dress.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it'll be hilarious.
It'll be hype.
Yeah, I'd be pretty hyped actually. I would play the game very briefly with that, but it'd be funny. I actually think there's a chance of this. Probably not Leon in the Princess Zelda costume, but I actually
100% think there's going to be exclusive Switch 2 third-party games.
Exclusive to the Switch 2 as opposed to the Switch 1, not necessarily exclusive from the rest of humanity, but yes.
Also that, though, I do think there's going to be some of those. But those will eventually.
Yeah.
Not at first.
At some point, yeah.
Because I think most third-party games that would be exclusive would also probably run on the Switch 1.
By the way, me saying holiday is just something I want. I don't know. I mean, I made a video today talking about is it almost time for Switch 2? Right. That's up in the air. I think this holiday is just the earliest possible. So, yeah. Let's see here. I think we've kind of wrapped up on the Mario topic, though. Is there anything else you guys want to say on it?
No, just excited to see it.
Yeah, me 7.
Yeah, I hope it's not Peacock, but that's it. Yeah, that's all I can say, really.
We'll see what happens when it happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'll use a free trial if I have to.
Yeah, for real.
I actually got a free trial for Apple, the Apple TV or something this week, and I'm gonna use that to watch the Tetris movie.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't even know how I got the free Apple trial. Might have been something I signed up for. Anyway, Checking on the chat here, Dragon Cheat asks me, I'm absolutely with you, my dude. Movies are a big deal with me. I totally hear you. That stuff cringes me something fierce. Dragon Cheat is referring to people going to the bathroom while watching the movie. So, you know. Yeah, you want to trigger me? Come with me to the movies and then go to the bathroom.
I might do that once halfway through the movie, but definitely not the beginning.
Oh, yeah, the middle's not important. As long as you see the beginning and the end.
Well, if it's 3 hours and I got an hour and a half.
Well, if it's a 3-hour movie, I believe in intermission.
Yeah.
That's something that should exist for a 3-hour movie. Let's see here. Netweed09, Andres, Alien Isolation is on Switch. I'm sure you know. Yeah, I should play that. Alien Isolation seems pretty cool.
It's a really good version of the game too.
Yeah. Some people have argued it's like are in some ways better than the other versions, which is interesting.
It's better than the PS4 and Xbox One version because it runs at a similar resolution, but it actually has anti-aliasing.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about that.
It is.
The powers of optimization.
It's usually the opposite way around. But the Switch version has no anti-aliasing.
Yeah. But anyways, before our call-in segment, let's move back on to Zelda. We just answered some questions earlier, but you know, from the demonstration, guys, were you guys impressed, disappointed, even keel? Like, what were kind of your takeaways from it?
Well, I'd say since I knew that it was going to be mostly gameplay oriented, I was pretty happy with it.
Okay,
pretty happy with it. I really liked the ideas that they went with. I feel like with the kind of game Breath of the Wild was and what made it so popular, the best thing you can do is to improve upon the world and add more tools to mess with that world. And I think the tools they provided with Ultra Hand and like Fuse and all these different things and messing with the fans and being able to do things like that, I think that's pretty much exactly what I was looking for in terms of giving you more tools and making the game more deep and being able to mess with the world and figure out different solutions. I do think what's next should be showing off what's different within the Hyrule overworld side of things. Because from what I've been seeing a lot on Twitter, I'm sure other fans have noticed and probably found it very annoying on Twitter and social media. It seems that the conversation around this game being a glorified DLC has not gone away.
No,
right?
If anything, it's resurfaced it. It's made it strong.
Exactly.
Pun intended.
Right.
It's made it stronger because they open up the footage with Link on Hyrule, and to the untrained eye, it looks the same.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember being on this podcast a while ago saying something along the lines of that they have to show Hyrule being very different from what was previously available in Breath of the Wild to kind of convince the average person if they want to come back, right? Because the fanatics like us, we're going to play it. We're going to play it day one. We're all going to play. Everyone in this chat's going to play it most likely. We're not the people we need to be convinced, right? We're not the people that need to be convinced. So in terms of gameplay, I loved it. It's exactly what I was looking for. It's exactly what I was hoping to see from a sequel. But that whole unfortunate DLC conversation got reinvigorated because, they really only walked around Hyrule for a little while in that gameplay. And unless you're a fanatic,
interesting area either.
Right, exactly. And I think that's what's next. If they want to show off more of the game in like maybe future trailers or anything like that, I think they need to show that side of it. I think they need to show the side of what's different within Hyrule. Because you can add the floating islands, you can add the caves, but what's different? You're going to be exploring to go to those islands. You're going to be exploring to reach those caves. What's different in that path in between? Right? What's remixed in that area? And I think that's... I'm not saying the DLC argument will go away, because I don't think that's going to go away. It's just a sequel that's going to happen. We saw the same thing with like Horizon and God of War. Those games had the same problem. I think, if anything, it'll make it better, and I think it will convince some people who still feel that way. Maybe have them, understand that it's a sequel, and maybe help the game in that sense. But yeah, overall, I did really like it in general.
Yeah, and then I talked about this with Brandon the other day. Looking at things now, I feel a bit better about it.
Yeah.
I'm gameplay wise, I'm totally impressed. Brandon probably knows where I'm going with this, but the visuals is where I was a little let down, just because it basically looked like Breath of the Wild, and in some ways, arguably worse. But I figured that most of this may just be compression problems. Because whenever I look at Breath of the Wild stuff online, it never looks as good as it does when I'm playing the game in person. There is a substantial difference. Like, you know, I have Breath of the Wild at home, and when I look at that, I'm like, hey, that looks pretty good. When I look at the Tears of the Kingdom gameplay footage, I'm like, what the hell happened? Like, there's there's a change. I mean, heck, even when I compare it to the trailers, I'm like, what the hell happened?
Though.
What?
There is definitely a change beyond compression. That video is very obviously like ridiculously compressed. Like if you zoom in on it, you can just clearly see it's got artifacting all over it to the point where you can barely even make out fine texture detail at all. And we do have like some screenshots and stuff floating around of the same exact footage, but like the source file of it.
It looks good.
It looks way better. It is clear though that footage is running at a much lower resolution with lowered settings compared to the previous trailers, though, which were, in my opinion, almost certainly running either on a Switch 2, which why would they show that version, or more likely a PC, which Nintendo has done many times in the past with their games. One that always comes to mind is Yoshi's Crafted World, which ran at 1080p in all of their trailers, but was like a sub 720p game. So it wouldn't shock me if those previous trailers were just PC, but they're definitely running at a higher resolution with like anti-aliasing and different things, which none of that seems active in the actual gameplay here, where we don't see any of the texture filtering issues that we see in the gameplay, as well as the shadow map resolution is clearly much lower in this gameplay versus the other trailers. So I think the other trailers might be a hint to what it could look like on a Switch 2 patch or something, you know. But I do think the actual game is going to look closer to that trailer on the original Switch. Not that compressed, not that horribly muddy and blurry, but it's not going to look like those original trailers.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to keep in mind is that the world is a lot larger, so there's a lot more for it to render than in Breath of the Wild, right? Yeah. So while the Switch may be more powerful than the Wii U, while they may have had more time to optimize, they are rendering a far larger world. So, you know, it looks like Breath of the Wild. If I account for the compression issues, it looks like Breath of the Wild, just bigger. And that may be fine, you know. I think, you know, they intentionally showed off Link falling from the island to show the seamless transition, which is extremely impressive. So, you know, it's not like all negative. Like, there are some impressive things from a technical perspective in that demonstration, especially if you account for the abilities. The abilities are mind-blowing what they're doing there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, like there's some crazy mechanics and physics going on with the abilities. Like the ascend ability, being able to swim through terrain like that and just seamlessly surface out of it. That's nuts. Being able to build objects in the environment together and interact them with that in that way with Ultra Hand, that's insane. Be able to merge items in the overworld into one item, crazy.
And there's polished everything. Like with the Ultra Hand abilities, when you're building like a vehicle, they could have easily made it just like wherever you place it down, that's exactly where it goes. But it like automatically lines itself in like a very nice like centered position that makes sense and is much easier to actually just use right off the bat. And there's a lot of other little like things that could have been like super unpolished with the abilities, but they're not. They seem to flow very well. They're very well integrated, which I'm sure took a ton of time.
Yeah, but you know, we've kind of had a lot of this discussion already. What I want to do, well, you know, I guess I want you you guys give me your takes. Like Shifty, you kind of already given yours already. Mm-hmm. But what do you think they're kind of holding back? You know, like You mentioned some other things they could show off. So I guess your take is that there's still more to come before the game comes out.
I think so. I feel like if the majority of regular land Hyrule, right? If the majority of that is mostly the same with a couple of differences here and there that we've seen, in the grand scheme of how big that map was, I don't think that's enough. And if those are the only things, and we're only noticing it because we're looking in the backgrounds and we're doing what we do and we're being analytical and looking into the backgrounds, they need to put that to the forefront and show those things. Maybe not everything, because obviously we would like some surprises, right? But I think you could kind of help the DLC argument thing if you've shown like a lot more differences to the game that are related to probably the biggest landmass in the game. You know,
I'm gonna put a poll.
Okay.
Poll. I'm curious what you guys think. All right. So we're gonna talk about this poll. All right. So here's the question for the poll: what can Nintendo show off to quiet down those saying TOTK is just overpriced DLC? Right? So like what can Nintendo be like, hey, here's this. Nope, still DLC. Oh, maybe not, right? So
I feel like it really has to be just showing Hyrule just drastically different in so many different ways. And
I think
I
the reason they're not showing these things, and we still there's a lot of basic progression stuff we don't know about.
Right.
Like what are replacing the Sheikah Towers? We kind of see what it is, but we don't know how it works. We've seen things that maybe could be shrine replacements, but nothing that is like even definitively looks like it. So we don't know what's up with that. We don't know any of the basic progression. What are the dungeons? I have a feeling it's because it's tied back to the story, and they're wanting to talk about like all of that at once and how everything ties together, rather than just being like if they had mentioned shrines and towers in the Zonai, they had a very small hint, a confirmation that Zonai is like a thing, but they didn't really go into like what that means. And I think they're waiting to talk about what that means for the overall story, and then incorporate like, why are there no Sheikah Towers? Why is it these new Zonai, quote unquote, Zonai Towers? Like, why are there no shrines? Why are there these shrine replacements? Why are there these Sky Islands? I feel like all these things are going to be answered like at once in a way that makes more sense. And then also they're going to give us a glimpse of why the world is different for story context as well. I think they're just not wanting, like in this gameplay thing, they were just wanting to talk about gameplay. They weren't mentioning story at all. So it didn't really make sense to talk about these things that they might want story context for.
Yeah, so I realize the poll may have not been the best idea. So if you have something different to add than what the options I offered, please put it in the chat. But so I put up the poll for you. So yeah, I'm gonna tell
other.
Oh well. Anyways, this is the question I asked: what can Nintendo show off to quiet those saying Tears of the Kingdom is just overpriced DLC? And I provided 4 options: large, unique dungeons with bosses, massive underground exploration, underwater exploration, big epic story. I see a big winner so far in the poll, but we'll see how time progresses. It's starting to even out a little. But I understand what you guys are saying. It's probably not just one thing, right? It is likely a combination of things. And just because they didn't show off something doesn't mean it's not there, right?
Yeah.
They've been extremely secret of the game so far.
Oh yeah. I think underground exploration is kind of a given. Do you guys agree?
Unless those are huge sky islands with huge caverns inside that we saw in the trailers, I think it's pretty much confirmed. And I feel like they're too big to be that, because I think we did see some like caves and stuff that we've clearly now seen are on the sky islands, with like the Hinox chasing it. That's probably on the sky island.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
Really? I mean, it looks exactly like those tunnels in the Sky
Yeah,
Islands.
I agree that
mean,
I agree that that's a cave in the Sky Island. I just don't agree that the same cave we saw in the previous trailer with the Hinox is also in the sky. I
mean,
think
it might not be.
I
but
just
it
think
looks
that the
exactly
way
like it.
right, but I think that's just because it's a cave. I think caves are just gonna look similar regardless of where if they're in the sky or in the surface. It's a cave. So my personal I understand where you're coming from, and I see that. I don't think it is the cave they showed in the trailer with the Hinox chasing Link. I don't think that's in the sky, mainly just because I don't think Hinoxes are in the sky. Hinoxes are from the surface. Hinox are not a sky creature. Now, it's possible that a land that if there is land, it's on the surface that was taken up into the sky where there was a Hinox, sure. But I don't think Hinox are from the Skyland Islands. So that's why I don't think that the Hinox chasing scene is a Sky Island cave, just because I think that Hinox I think it's a cave in on the surface with a Hinox. So it would have to be a situation where a big island with a cave that was from the surface of Hyrule was taken into the sky.
Yeah,
but most of the Sky Islands are new.
As well.
Okay.
Yeah, my point. That's kind of my point. I think that's most likely the case that it is an underground area. Like those caverns seem really big too. Like I think that is most likely an underground confirmation.
Yeah. And even if there's not the Hinox one, we've seen 3 different types of underground areas. One with the Hinox cave. The other one is in the same trailer. They show stalactites. Well, it's a large cavernous area that's dark and gray with mouse-infested Lizalfos and Bokoblins, suggesting that they would be...
That's the one I'm mainly referencing.
Yeah, that one I think has to be underground, because, like, the mouse part, if you think that the mouse is coming from the underground, right? Like,
and it's huge. Like this, we've seen some pretty big Sky Islands, and they do seem to be bigger than what like they may have seen in some of the previous trailers. But I don't think they could be that big, where there's just this absolutely massive cavern underneath.
Yeah, so I think there's gonna be a lot of large caverns underground, and then we are not even accounting for the first teaser. Like, that's before the Sky Islands presumably are even in the picture.
And that's just straight up underground.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we had to place money, if there's anything I'm placing money on there being in the game, of the 4 put in the poll, large unique dungeons with bosses, massive underwater exploration, and epic story, it's underground exploration. Like, that's like the most obvious one of the 4 put in the poll.
Your poll should have included like completely rebuilt towns or something, or like expanded
a remixed cities. Hyrule Overland.
Yeah. Well, we saw some hints that we're gonna be able to. It's a theory. It's maybe not enough evidence to say for sure, but
I think it's pretty obvious that you can build up structures and like rebuild Hyrule. Like we've seen like 3 different building sites. Can't even remember.
There's a lot of building sites. So, or at least our speculation that when we would come back in Tears of the Kingdom, there would be evidence of this effort to restore Hyrule. That's clearly there. So what Zelda said at the end of Breath of the Wild, we're seeing it in the overworld. Now the question is, do we play a role in that in some way? I think the answer is probably yes.
Yeah.
I think almost certainly.
Yeah. And
it's probably a major like reward and progression part of the game. Like exploring to find parts and different things that you need to go build a certain building or something.
Yeah, so if you're rebuilding Hyrule yourself, and maybe how you rebuild Hyrule is different from how other players might do it, that adds a whole other layer, to the game that I think. I mean, that's you're changing the world.
Insane. I think it would be cool even if it's just predetermined stuff, but it would be absolutely on another level if you could actually just like choose what's there. I'm not sure if they're gonna go that far or not.
Yeah, it would be crazy. What do you think, Shifty?
I don't know. I think like we're definitely gonna have some hand in it. I don't think it's just gonna be there for show, and if it is there for show, it's gonna be a little disappointing, I will admit. But I'd be very surprised if we don't have some kind of hand in rebuilding certain things, and if we don't use Ultra Hand to do it. with. Like they might have situations where they have a bunch of stuff just kind of laying around and they expect you to kind of put things together to kind of like, you know, almost replicate like you're rebuilding something.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, like I could see it because it just seems weird, and or I guess oddly coincidental for us to have abilities that involve us putting things together in a game where we're about rebuilding things. You know, like it it would be weird if we weren't doing that.
Right? Yeah, and then even if you exclude the Ultra Hand of building stuff, there's also the recall theory stuff too, where you can restore things that were destroyed in the past or changed in the past. Like so, there's a few different angles there from what they've shown us already, and there's decent evidence to suggest we haven't even seen all the abilities yet. So what do those other abilities suggest too, right? So yeah, I mean it seems like we're on the same page that that's gonna be a huge element that they could show off that. I think you'd be hard pressed to argue otherwise, right? Like, what kind of DLC does someone add to a game where you can completely restructure the world? That's not DLC. That's not DLC. It's just not DLC. It's just not.
I'm trying to think if there was ever a DLC that did something like that. I mean,
in Fortnite they added the builder mode, but that's a separate map.
Oh, you mean like the creative mode?
That thing, yeah. And it's very limited and messy.
Andres plays Fortnite all the time.
Clearly.
Clearly.
Biggest Fortnite fan. I'm
Definitely
sure.
I am a hugest. Me
and Ninja, we go way back.
Oh, do you now? All right. I was with him on the Halo train, so I've been there.
Oh yeah, well I was hit with him on the Unreal tournament.
Ah.
I
know. I'm surprised you know what Unreal Tournament is.
I'm surprised too. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, maybe I'm spitting facts here. I'm not. I actually thought I was actually under the impression that the Unreal Tournament trend and the Halo trend were around the same time.
No.
Oh, definitely not. No.
Well, I mean, Halo Combat Evolved came out early to 2001, 2002.
I think Unreal was like a 90s thing.
Okay, well,
like the original Unreal.
Okay. Anyways, I played both at different times. Not with Ninja. Probably.
I was a lot more into the Quake 3 Arena side of things.
Okay. They were fun times, though.
They were.
Yeah. So let me call in our guest, our extra guest call-in segment with one of our channel members. They're basically gonna come in for a little bit, ask us some questions. We're pretty much just gonna probably continue our discussion here, but I'm curious what they have to say. So give me a moment to transition over. Ready? Let me call them in here. I'm assuming they're ready. Samuel, if you're there, let me know. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna give Sam a moment here to jump in. And while I do, let me check the chat real quick.
Well, unrelated, but we got a release date for Pokemon Stadium on Switch.
Oh! The hype is real.
Stadium in so long. It's the only Pokemon game I actually owned as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love the mini games. That's gonna be great.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I had to switch it from speaker back to AirPods.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know what happened when you make calls on Discord. It gets a little messy. But Samuel, thanks for coming on, buddy. How you doing?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm just the wait to Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
That I'm trying to finish everything before then because I know it's going to be a while that I'm playing that game.
Yeah. But yeah, we were just talking about, like what can Nintendo show off to kind of dispel the naysayers on Tears of the Kingdom being basically just DLC. Like, what do you think they could do that would do it? Like, if there's one thing they could show off more than anything else, what would it be?
So, some new, obviously the UI is going to be the same, and that's fine. It works.
It's a little optimized. I like the bow stuff, how the item wheel kind of appears right in front of you. That's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, like there's some more quality of life changes.
But it is about the same. I understand your point.
Yeah. We're so used to every Zelda being, just a drastically different system. But this is a sequel. So
yeah.
I think when he used the Ascend ability and the snow music from the original Breath of the Wild played, I think everyone probably let out a grunt. So if maybe some more new music shown would be cool.
I've seen a lot of people complain about the music, but like I've actually been excited because they played new music for the presentation. I was like, oh, that's some cool music. But I guess I understand that there were a lot of recurring sound effects. But I mean, there was new music for the Sky Islands. I guess what they haven't done is a lot of the same areas have the same music, which I'm okay with because it's supposed to be basically the same Hyrule. Like, I don't know. I think it'd be weird to like change the stable music if there was no reason to change the stable music.
I think some of the music being the same actually works in its favor. So hear me out.
Okay.
They always do, 50 to 100 songs for each Zelda game. So they're probably going to have a lot of new content that, they're not going to be able to have a new song for everything. So they're still going to have those like 50 to 100 songs. But the world's just so big that, they can't do a new music for everything.
They're just doing new music for the new stuff because there's a lot.
Right. Exactly.
That makes sense. I've seen some people suggest that we might get like larger dungeons, but they'll be very samey, kind of like a Divine Beasts, which would be very disappointing to me. I feel like they have to have their own themes and elements, and I think they will have their own themes and elements, and hopefully their own kind of story to it, and their own musical tracks, kind of like previous Zelda games. Like every dungeon had its own feel, its own story, its own theme and music. To your point, if it is a case that they're focusing on just new music for new stuff, maybe there will be a unique big dungeon for each element or what have you, and they'll have their own song. Like I kind of expect that.
Yeah, I really hope there's actual dungeons this time, and it doesn't need to be locked by items. Just have puzzles and have small keys and have unique bosses and stuff. Because I'm replaying Breath of the Wild right now. I could run through every Divine Beast in like 15 minutes apiece. They're very short.
Yeah, once you figure them out, they're quick. Yeah. I want the dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom to not have the same hook. Like once you figure out one, you kind of figure them all out. I hope each one has just a completely unique kind of puzzle to it. That would be much better in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think for the concerns about the graphics, it is a lot of compression. So they could link like a file that's just completely uncompressed that would have the graphics of like the press screenshots, because it's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, I also wonder if the press screenshots are legit. Brandon seems to think so, right, Brandon? Brandon's gone.
Brandon's gone. Brandon, he left.
We lost Brandon. Oh, I can see his little mute symbol.
Yeah.
He probably just stepped away for a moment, but anyway.
Well, yeah. I will add something that I would want for the dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
The number one thing I think I loved about Breath of the Wild was how open everything felt and was. So I would like it if all the dungeons were as open as Hyrule Castle was, and not like the Divine Beast were, where it was practically like a whole separate like load to get to the
Yeah,
dungeon
I hear what you're
itself.
saying there.
Like if it was seamlessly in the world and you just kind of walk in and start doing things, I think that'd be something I would really like to see.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'm
And just
actually okay with them having a single entrance. I mean, I don't know. It either way. What were you gonna say, Samuel?
yeah, I don't think the dungeons will ever be traditional again in this type of game. It doesn't really make sense. Like there's not going to be items in the dungeon that require you to, use in another dungeon or get to another part of the world. But the dungeons can have unique bosses. They can have puzzles, like more complex puzzles, and still feel like a dungeon without risking that open air style. There's a way they could do it, and I think they are. I mean, did we know anything about the Divine Beast before Breath of the Wild came out?
Yes, sort of.
We did.
Well, we knew there were giant things exploring the world. There were giant creatures in the world.
They didn't do like a segment on them, though, right?
No. It's hard.
I don't think we ever saw actual gameplay of them before the game came out. Maybe small snippets from like trailers or something. Actually, I think were shown. I do think we saw the inside of one in one of the trailers, but
oh yeah,
I don't think it was extensively gone over.
Oh yeah, I remember in the story trailer in January there was the Gerudo one, Nabaru.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't know the full story, but we had something from that trailer. So it's that. I don't know. I will say to kind of go on, Shifty.
I was gonna say that I think like it is possible to have dungeons again. It just you can't have them done in the style of, everything's locked and very linear progressed in terms of like solving puzzles with items and whatnot. Like Samuel was saying, it would. I feel like the layout would have to be like how Hyrule Castle was in Breath of the Wild, where it was just like a seamless open area where you could technically go anywhere within the location, and maybe there's puzzles in each location that will like progress the overall objective of the dungeon, but not necessarily lock you out of into a linear progression style.
I think mostly what I'm wanting from dungeons is for them to like be themed and fit into the environment in a way that's like more natural.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're playing Ocarina of Time, you go find the forest dungeon as an adult. Like that is such a perfectly themed dungeon that you find right in a place where you thought you knew everything that was there, and nope, there's a dungeon hidden there, and it has all this lore and everything to it that you find throughout the dungeon, things that were not in the dungeons. Like the Divine Beasts were cool. I like the fact that they had like a unique gimmick to each of them that you couldn't find anywhere else in the world, and that was only for that dungeon. But other than that, it really lacked everything that made a Zelda dungeon special. And I hope that they bring that kind of stuff back, even if they can't have a dungeon item that you earn. They can still theme dungeons around certain types of puzzles or certain types of items that you might need, and then give you like enemies that can drop those types of items that you can fuse, so you need those abilities, or give you chests that carry things that you might need for the dungeons, and still have them be kind of themed not only in the world but in the puzzles themselves, while not needing like a specific item you earn in that dungeon.
Yeah, I think that's like both of our ideas can put them together, and I think you have like the most ideal version of a dungeon in a game like Breath of the Wild. Just combine the two ideas. Yeah. Because it needs, if we're gonna have a whole game be sold upon do whatever you want whenever you want, and it's the most open world ever, I feel like the dungeons need to reflect that as well. But like Brandon's saying, they need to have that theme too, to keep them interesting. Make people actually want to explore what that location is. The Divine Beasts were interesting at first, primarily because they were giant machines that were just walking around Hyrule, and we wanted to see what was up with that.
Yeah.
They had a spectacle to them, but once you kind of figured
Yeah.
them out, that kind of went away completely.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. As cool as the spectacle is, yeah, I'm okay with it just being a really, really well thought out, very well hidden dungeon. And that's the exciting thing to me. I believe there will be dungeons that relate to a particular theme. Each one. Like, one might be maybe based off the desert. One may be based off the missing Deku tree, for example. Like, where did that go? And now we see these Koroks that are wearing
I think
backpacks.
They're gonna go beyond theming like water, fire, earth. I think they're gonna go more than that, into more like specific lore kind of themes.
One of my
It's
favorite
not gonna be,
dungeons
like,
is like
basic,
this.
you know?
Snow Peak Ruins is epic.
Oh,
I don't-
yeah. That's
yeah.
a great one for the Twilight
Yeah.
Princess.
I don't know. I would even be okay with them being maybe not like they'll still kind of like there'll still be one in the desert. There'll still be one like in the Death Mountain area. There'll still be one that'll be based off
You can
wind.
still probably boil them down. I mean, like even like Twilight Princess has some of the best dungeons in the game, in my opinion. Even in terms of like theming and stuff, where you can still pretty much boil them down to like the snow level, the fire level, if you really want to. But they build off that theming so much to make it a unique thing you're not gonna see in every game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think one way they can change the world is by having us find the dungeons in there. Like,
yeah, don't mark them on the map. Like, make them
definitely not bad.
Some of them could be obvious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like,
just have a very interesting, like, make the front of the dungeon look interesting, so it makes you on your own make the decision to go check out what that is.
I think we already have that answer. According to the big sort of like key art for Tears of the Kingdom, how there's a giant tornado in the air by the Hebrew region.
Mm-hmm.
We want to know what that is, so eventually we're gonna check out this giant vortex. Like, why is that there? Right? Like, if that leads to a dungeon, there you go. Right? One of the vortex, because I think we've seen it. It's actually like above the Hebrew region. So either A, there's a dungeon hidden inside the Hebrew mountain, or it's a sky island that's way above, but the vortex might shoot you all the way up or something. You know, like maybe you have to like kind of like fight your way past the vortex to get to the dungeon, because it is part of the challenge is finding the way to get up in Tears of the Kingdom, right? Like, there are different ways to go up. I mean, that's part of the fun. It's just kind of find different ways to climb higher, because you can't just climb on your own. And maybe the reason they put a vortex there is because maybe that's where the city in the sky is. Actually, thinking about it, the city in the sky, you get shot there
through a cannon.
Twilight Princess.
Yeah, but where is is it Lake Hylia? Is that where the cannon shoots you from? I think so.
Yeah, that clown guy fixes it over.
But he can shoot you in different directions. He also shoots you to the Gerudo region.
The one that shoots through the sky though is in Kaku Village, though, isn't it? Underground, at least originally.
Yeah, they discovered it there, and Midna teleported it.
There you go. Sure, I should find the. I forget where the cannon is, but they do use it to shoot to get up there. Anyway, I was just trying to think of like location, like if there's like any sort of like relation there. It would be very vague. Any point is they changed the map around in Breath of the Wild anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
yeah, it's not consistent. So.
Yeah, but what if the city in the sky is up there? Like that would be cool. Or Death Mountain. Like
I always kind of thought that there was something inside the vortex. Like eventually, you might either find a way to go into it, or it might like dissipate at some point.
Maybe could be that too. Could be a dungeon inside the vortex.
It'd be cool I think it'd be cool to explore like past areas and stuff, and like in Breath of the Wild, there was Lon Lon Ranch on Hyrule Field. And I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like if that was rebuilt, or at least if you could rebuild it.
I still believe it's a water temple like Hylia.
And they could have done dungeons in Breath of the Wild. I mean, the desert, I'm so disappointed that the Arbiter's Grounds didn't end up being anything more.
Well, it might be something in Tears of the Kingdom, because we might be able to go underground. So, Or
yeah,
what
that
if
was like
or what if
one
we
of
can
the
find
best
the
before the
desert
Twin Force.
colossus? If we can go further into the desert, we can find that. That would be sick.
Yeah, and like a ruined spirit temple or something.
Yeah,
Just make this game one big nostalgia fest.
do it. I'm all aboard.
We're in the forest. We stumble upon the forest temple somehow.
Which forest?
So epic. A forest. I just said. I don't know. Man.
Yeah.
Just a forest.
I'm still
I'm
very
gonna say it
curious
was a solid,
what happens to the Deku Tree. Like where I have to imagine it's in the sky or it blew up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Either that or it got sucked underground, which
You know
I guess is
something
not impossible.
odd is we've seen like the Zonai mazes like floating in the sky.
Right.
We've also seen hints that like there's also like still Zonai mazes where they used to be. It seems in some of the trailers we can actually see them, or something that like we think we can see them. So that is interesting.
Do you
Maybe there's just,
know
new
where that
mazes?
might be so we can take a look?
No, I would, and not in a timely fashion.
You have to show me because I don't think I've seen evidence of like there's what's interesting. Well, I don't believe that the labyrinths are still on the surface. Well, okay, so actually, I think the thing is not every labyrinth has been taken up. I think maybe 2 of the 3 have been taken to the sky, but not all 3. And maybe that's what you're alluding to, or maybe that's what you're getting at. And it's not so much that
Not
there's
according to the information I saw.
okay. Well,
According to the information I saw, that would not be the case.
okay, we'll have to look into that deeper later. Well, Samuel, do you have any particular questions for us that you want us to kind of talk about?
Well, we know the sky is going to be very vast. How ambitious do you think the underground is going to be? I'm just going to assume there's an underground because of the evidence we've seen. And if there is, what does that say for a possible underwater area?
Yeah. Do either of you guys want to jump into that question?
Curious what Shifty thinks, because I have talked on this before.
Yeah, have at it, Shifty.
How vast for the underground? I don't know, because I'm trying to imagine like a series of just interconnected tunnels between maybe like large cavern like areas, and they're all interconnected in some fashion. I don't know if it'll be as massive as, say, Hyrule itself. I want to say maybe along the same level as the Sky Islands, possibly.
Yeah, so
I'm
like
not entirely sure.
40% of the map.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah, I could see that being the case. I also think that the ability to, I forgot the name of the ability, but the one where you can basically go through the ceiling and like end up on the other side.
Ascend.
Yeah. I think Ascend could be used. I think the main purpose of it existing was probably because they made a lot of really deep cavern-like systems and wanted the player to have a way to get out of it very conveniently.
Yeah, that could confirm deep caves, because where he used Ascend, I mean, you could climb up that cliff and with just that stamina. So yeah, that might confirm deeper. Or maybe if you're inside Death Mountain or something, in a dungeon there, to get out, you use Ascend or something.
Yeah, we do know they've added
situation
caves.
where you're. Yeah, because I could definitely see a situation where, maybe in playtesting or something, they made all these very deep caves, but then they found that test players would get lost trying to leave the cave. You know, if they're lost within this massive cave system.
Brandon has a feeling, guys.
Going to use a 3D. Okay.
You have feelings, Brandon?
Oh man.
Anyways, I have a feeling that they're going to use a 3D style map for the underground, kind of like they do for the Hyrule Castle, because I do think like it might be harder it might be more of a maze down there, and that might need more extensive mapping.
All right, this is what I got for you. You know how the map, if you look at Tears of the Kingdom, the mini map has numbers for the 3 different axes.
Mm-hmm.
There will be negative numbers. The middle point is
negative 9999.
There's the middle point is 0. So you can go to left and right, up and down, forward and backwards. Negatively to 9999 and other way to 9999. Or until there's an invisible barrier that tells you to stop. So yeah, definitely.
I mean, in the underground, it would likely be a much more physical barrier.
Yeah, physical barrier. I hope the sky barrier is
space
where you just suffocate.
I think it all depends on how... Sorry.
Go for it.
I was just saying, like, we have different things, like, you know, you get too cold, you get too hot. Maybe you just run out of oxygen if you get too high up.
Yeah, why not? Like, well, it could be that simple. But like, I don't need us to go to space, but I want them to show the atmosphere getting thinner, and I want to start to see like stars. You know, like I want the blue sky to start.
I
to
think
dissipate.
lack of stars in the sky in Breath of the Wild. It's kind of disappointing. The map or the texture they use, or the skybox they use. I'm saying for the nighttime, it's kind of disappointing. It's not actually that many stars. It's surprising.
But in Tears of the Kingdom, they can change that. They can fix that. Especially if you go very high and you go through, you're past that cloud barrier, past those islands, obscuring what could be beyond. I mean, it could be,
possible.
it could that could be the lore reason that there's other layers, right? They kind of block the nighttime sky somewhat, and once you get past that, you see like a very deep, thick, spacey sort of skybox, which I think would be beautiful. Yeah. So I don't need our giant moon dungeon. I do want it, but
I do.
You know, I would like to at least get close. Let us feel like we're getting closer to the sky. That would be cool. To space.
Yeah, and if the sky goes this high, and if it goes to 7-8K or so,
that's crazy, right? Because we're only like in the teens. We're like around when it gets like 1800 or something.
Might end up being the size of the Hyrule map, so it could. You know, obviously the sky is the main focus of the game. It's what they revealed first. It's just a matter of is there a little bit of underground or underwater or something? They've only had so much time to, and it also depends on how much they change the surface. If they change it a lot, it might be just a couple caves, that and the sky. But if the sky is like maybe 30 to 40% of the Hyrule map,
all right, I'm just gonna tell you what I think. All right, I'm not gonna play it safe anymore. I'm just gonna tell you what I believe. I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm just gonna tell you what I believe. I think the game is going to blow our minds. I think the game is honestly going to have a ridiculous amount of extra content. When I really think when I think about how I listen to everyone making these discussions, not just here on this channel, this discussion. I mean like across the internet. And I just see people saying, yeah, so we're gonna get the Sky Islands. There might be a few underground areas. That'll be it. I'm like, no, I don't believe it. I don't believe it because they've been making this game for 6 damn years. It's been 6 years, and they've been building all of Hyrule as a base.
Let's look at it this way then. Breath of the Wild, let's say, so the engine took 2 years to develop, right? Let's just say that.
Sure.
3.5 years to make the map. So they've had 6 years for just map here. So technically, I'm gonna do some number crunching here. 6 divided by 3.5. So total map in Tears of the Kingdom, based on development time, should be 170% the size of Breath of the Wild's total map. Let's just say 150. Play it safe. Account for the pandemic.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify because the thing is the abilities definitely required a lot of work. Those abilities.
Yeah,
yeah,
the fuse ability, the Ultra Hand.
So, but this is my take. I don't know how it's going to be proportioned. I don't know how much underground there will be. I don't know how much sky there will be. I don't know how much changes there will be to the surface, or they somehow include underwater or an entire other realm. I don't know how. But my belief is this. When it's all said and done, when we experience the game in its entirety, we're going to be like, holy hell, what a game that was. That's my take. It's going to be insane. I don't think it's going to feel like, oh, that was a nice... This is not a DLC. This is a full-on new game. So it's going to have that large gap of time's worth of work put into what the base of Hyrule. It's going to be significant. Now,
I'll say this, like,
go on.
Real quick, I don't think we've seen hardly any of the game. Like, I really don't. Like, we hadn't before in this gameplay trailer, and this gameplay, this 10-minute thing, was not like a mind-bogglingly... It was not a game changer. Like, they didn't show everything. They showed a few more things that are really cool, and they build on systems that we can speculate on that, you know, are bigger than the actual things they showed. But in reality, there's still like ridiculous amounts of basic things that we have no idea about. Like, it's absolutely insane the amount of just like basic progression stuff we haven't even seen. I'm sure there is an unbelievable amount of stuff that we have not seen from this game.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think there's going to be more overworld bosses that we have not seen. Some are going to be in the sky, some are going to be underground. I think there's going to be more water exploration. I think that does include underwater. We'll see. I think there's going to be big, giant, unique dungeons with their own themes, their own musical tracks, with an amazing boss fight at the end. I think we have not seen all of Link's abilities. I think these abilities will stack upon each other to do some crazy things. I think there's going to be rebuilding of Hyrule that will play a role in. I think the story's time is going to be a bigger deal than the story in Breath of the Wild. That's what I think we're getting for Tears of the Kingdom. I think it's going to be significant, and I'm going to go one step further. The final boss fight will be epic. It will trump the final boss fight we had in Breath of the Wild. Will Tears of the Kingdom sell better than Breath of the Wild? Will it review better than Breath of the Wild? That's tough. But
yeah,
no, I think it will. I think it will.
I think it might. But
I think
yeah.
if you include the Switch 1 and Switch 2 sales over time, it will pass it.
Call me crazy, but I think it's going to sell 35 to 40 million.
The thing is, Breath of the Wild is also going to continue to sell, right? Breath of the Wild probably will. Oh, I don't think so. I don't think on Switch. I think, well, it kind of depends on how Nintendo markets Switch 2. Like, if Switch 2 is basically like...
on when, yeah.
Like, if Switch 2 is like a Game Boy Color where every Switch 2 game is still a Switch game, then, you know, yes. But it's a tough call there. It is a tough call. Yeah, I mean,
pre-order sales are a lot, but yeah, it is hard to gauge. I'm getting ahead of myself because Breath of the Wild, if you look at the launch sales, I think it sold like 2 million in a week or something. Like, it wasn't crazy sales like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Nothing near that. It was just more of an evergreen title.
Yeah,
right.
And most people were buying it on the Switch. So if you didn't have a Switch yet, you most likely weren't buying the game. Whereas now, I'm sure it's hard to tell if it will outsell it like long term and actually sell more than 30 million on the Switch. But 100%, like, it's going to sell faster, like way faster. So it's going to catch up quick, relatively. But I'm not sure like how.
I bet it will sell at least
30 million.
It will sell at least 20 million by the end of this year. At least.
That would not surprise me. Like 15 to 20 million, that wouldn't be too shocking.
I wouldn't be
We'll
so.
know
I
if
mean,
it
heck, I
outsells
think
Breath of the
it
Wild,
may even hit 25 by the end of the year. I'm saying 20 is a minimum. I think most people who played Breath of the Wild who want to get Tears of the Kingdom will play Tears of the Kingdom the first year. I mean, just look at Pokemon Splatoon. Pokemon Splatoon and hear me out. Hear me out. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came out November. We only have numbers up to the end of December, so like 6 weeks basically. We have 6 weeks with the sales data. Scarlet and Violet is already over 20 plus million for a 20 and Sword and Shield.
That game did not deserve those sales. Oh my god!
And despite that, sold 20 plus million. Sword and Shield, its predecessor, sold 25. So Scarlet and Violet in a 6-week period of time accounted for 80% of the sales that Sword and Shield got. Tears of the Kingdom
really good, yeah.
is going to be considered a great game, far better than Scarlet and Violet. Probably more comparable to the quality of Breath of the Wild, if not beyond it. That's, let's say it's comparable. Let's just say comparable. It's going to do well.
The Switch has pretty much the biggest active user base of any console, because even though it's not the most highest sold console, I feel like it may not be the best, but it's definitely up there. It's hard to say if the PS2 had more active users, but when the Wii hit over 100 million, the Wii was dying, and nobody really gave a crap about the Wii anymore. And it was just kind of selling to casuals, and it was just, it already sold, and it took way longer than the Switch to do that as well. The Switch is actively still being used by most of the people who own it, so the amount of people who are actually actively buying titles for the system is absolutely insane. So, and way bigger than it was before, because a lot of times, a console might sell 100 million users over the time, but how many times do you think people have bought PS4s and then not continued to play them, or Xboxes? That's pretty common. And I feel with the Switch, it's crazy how many people are actually still buying it, and there's not actually that many unactive accounts. I think I saw a statistic on Twitter that was above 80% of all Switches sold or were used that year, or something that had actually been turned on.
I think it was 90.
It's 80 or 90. Yeah, it was higher than that. I think
90.
It was 90%.
It was from a Nintendo investors meeting. They had a metric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just absolutely insane.
Are you talking 90% or 90 million?
Both.
Because of
the time, it was around 100 million Switches sold at the time when this metric came out. So 90% is 90 million.
In the more recent one, I think it was Switch sold 122 million units.
Correct.
And I think it was 110 million active users, something like that.
Which is insane.
It's a little over 100.
It's insane.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. By the way, for those countering my Pokemon point that Pokemon sells regardless, true. But then also Splatoon 3, another game that had a big seller on Switch beforehand with Splatoon 2. I mean, Splatoon 3 versus 2, right? Splatoon 3 came out September. As of December 31st, it sold 10 plus million. Splatoon 2 sold 13. So it's in the same category. I mean, what's 10 of 13? That's close to 80%, right?
It's in that ballpark.
It's in that ballpark. 10 divided by 13. 77%.
Yeah, it's
yeah, and that I mean, obviously, I'm rounding up and down the 13 and 10. It's not a flush 10. It's not a flush. It rounds to 80%. So, yeah. Basically, if we give Tears of the Kingdom a holiday, I think by that understanding, I should expect that it should also hit at least 80% of Breath of the Wild sales by the end of 2023.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's also going to have more months than Splatoon and
possibility
Pokemon to hit that mark.
I know some people who didn't play Breath of the Wild, who are going to pick up Tears of the Kingdom because they were holding out for Tears of the Kingdom. So there could be some new fans introduced with Tears of the Kingdom.
I think there's going to be some people that are going to start with Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I think that'll happen. But I also think that there's going to be a good section of people who maybe didn't like Breath of the Wild, and they just aren't just not going to be interested in the sequel
until they reveal dungeons.
I mean, if that's the reason why, maybe. maybe. But sequels are weird because I feel like some franchises typically will sell more in some cases, like Pokemon or Splatoon. I think also had the same thing, like you mentioned. But in some cases, we also see sequels sell less, depending on the franchise.
Well, Zelda sequels sell less usually.
So
I'll give you that.
What's interesting is that I think when we look at the Pokemon situation, we look at the Splatoon situation, there was this conversation, Splatoon 3 doesn't feel that different from Splatoon 2. Is it really worth, buying it again? And then the numbers exploded, right? Pokemon, you look at all the bad reviews, all the performance issues. Is it really worth doing it again? I mean, and then sales exploded, right? Especially because like they had just come out with Brilliant Diamond Shining Pro and Legends Arceus less than a year beforehand. Sales still exploded, right? Granted, it had the advantage of being an open world Pokemon game, but Legends was kind of already going in that direction. Like, so there's a little bit of that. But you look at Tears of the Kingdom, and you have similar conversations. Like, it feels too much like a DLC, blah blah blah, this and that. But we're seeing signs that sales are exploding. Pre-orders are through the roof. All the special editions are through the roof. There are metrics suggesting it's going to have an incredible launch. I mean, I don't think anyone doubts that, right? But really where the debate comes in is how well will it do afterwards. But point is, when Nintendo games have a strong launch, it doesn't stop at a launch. Zelda has proven to be an evergreen series, so I think it's definitely going to continue. So while the jury's out on it beating Breath of the Wild, I think Breath of the Wild does have that unique circumstance of being the first game on Switch and all of that. I do feel good in saying that I think Tears of the Kingdom is going to is going to be hit at about 80% of Breath of the Wild sales. So Breath of the Wild is hovering around 31-ish. Let's round it up to 32 million if we count for Wii U sales. 32 times 0.8. Did I do that right? 32.
24 million.
I think more than that. 25.6. So I think Tears of the Kingdom will hit 26 million. I'm gonna say that we'll hit 20. I hit it like round up. I rounded up twice already. But I think Tears of the Kingdom will hit 26 million by December 31st of 2023.
I'll tell you this, I'm confident that over time on the Switch 1 and 2, that Tears of the Kingdom will outsell Breath of the Wild. I think it could actually, on both systems, sell like 40 plus million, to be honest.
Combined.
Over time, because I don't think the next Zelda is coming for a while. Yeah, combined.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it will sell. Like, if the Switch 2 comes out this holiday, then I definitely don't think the Switch 1's going to sell 30 million Tears of the Kingdom copies.
I'm just combining the numbers.
At least not for a while. But over both of the consoles, I definitely think it could hit over 40, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get people buying
the next
it
Zelda?
for both.
Go ahead.
Sorry, it's just like, it depends on how they release it as well. Like, if they have a separate version that you need to buy for the next system, that would definitely also boost sales. Or if there's some kind of, like, payment you need to get to, like, an upgraded version. But go on.
Yeah, so the next Zelda after Tears of the Kingdom, like, no doubt, it'll be probably 2029 earliest. More likely 2030. However, I think everyone's ignoring that they're building a new building in, I don't know if it's Kyoto or Tokyo, but it's going to be finished in 2027. And it's just going to be another like development building, I think. So they could have a second Zelda team there. If I was them, I would.
Zelda remake team.
Yeah,
2D
Ocarina of Time remake. Yeah.
Grezzo cries in the corner.
Like, I think Grezzo could pull it off. They did a good job with Link's Awakening. I think they should give them. I mean, look what Mercury Steam did when they got the reins for a new 2D Metroid.
Very true. Just because the developers only done certain work doesn't mean they can't do an ambitious project.
Yeah.
Right, like a Link's Awakening remake style, but maybe a different model and 4Kified. I think a new 2D Zelda could help tide us over till the next Zelda. I think they could still keep coming out with Zeldas every 6 years as long as there's big stuff in between. Like an Ocarina of Time remake would, like when Final Fantasy VII remake came out, that felt like as big as a new numbered release.
Right. I would love
Like if Ocarina
be able to play some of the 2D games on Switch as well, because a lot of the 2D ones, like on DS and 3DS, we don't have those available to play, and there's no real good way to play them on Switch, to be honest. Like, they would need to be reworked. I would like them to be like reimagined in a way that would work well on Switch.
Yeah, like I just recently went back to the Oracle games, and they have that whole thing where you have the sword and the shield for your 2 item slots, and just remake those games.
Having to switch out your sword and shield as items is just ridiculous. It's annoying.
Yeah, it's like it gives me Iron Boot vibes from Ocarina of Time.
Yeah,
it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, but Samuel, is there anything else you want to cover before we move on to close out the show?
How likely do you think it is that they remake some Zelda games in between Tears of the Kingdom and the next, and which do you think it's going to be?
I mean, I'll tell you what I want. I want them to remake Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Now
that game still holds up.
The problem with that idea is just that to remake it, and more than just kind of like a remaster, like a remake, like maybe like change around some of the gameplay, give it some like open world mechanics, like to do that's a grand undertaking.
Something
that's
like
almost
the RE4 remake.
Then when I joked around about having a separate team,
world.
I think they would need like a separate team with Aonuma or Miyamoto or some of the previous developers coming in to like oversee it, because I wouldn't want the project to take away too much from the next major Zelda game. I would want the idea behind the remake is to be a stopgap. So it would need to be a separate team. But if they can get us a separate team together to do something like that, that's what I would pick. And if that does well, that bridges the gap between the next major Zelda, and then maybe to bridge the gap again, they do Majora's Mask next, and then after that, we can. It would be interesting to see how they would remake Wind Waker. I think Wind Waker's the one you don't remake, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Although by the time we're talking about a remake for Wind Waker, it'd be like 15 years from now. So maybe they could, right?
I don't know what you would do with that style, though.
I know, but 15 years from now, we might be doing VR, like, and it might be in our heads. So
yeah, that's kind of cool.
So it's tough to say.
Twilight Princess, though, imagine that in the bridge. I forget the name, but in Smash Ultimate, there's a bridge level from Twilight Princess, and they have this beautiful style for it.
Yeah.
And You're
talking about the Smash stage,
Twilight
right?
Princess. Yeah, Smash Ultimate. I would love for the entirety of Twilight Princess to look like that.
Yeah, that's honestly probably my personal favorite Zelda game. It's not the best, but Twilight Princess is my favorite. It's the one I played the most growing up, and yeah, I like the dungeons and I like the final boss and the whole style.
Yeah,
the story was an epic story.
It's very, very medieval, which I like when Zelda gets like extremely medieval.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
it was like the world kind of had almost like a Dark Souls vibe to it. It was
a bit, yeah.
With the Twilight, people lost hope, and it was good. I'd like to see them remaster it, just like Metroid Prime, or do a remake for a Switch 2. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm down. I am down. All right, Samuel. Anything else you want to say before we move on?
Oh yeah, you're good.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming by. All right. Hope we do this again soon.
Yeah.
All right. Take it, buddy. See ya.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Alrighty. Switching back. All right. Cool. So yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on before I do some final Q&A? Guys in the chat, if you have any final questions you want to talk about, put them in the chat now. Yeah, Brandon, Shifty, anything else you guys want to touch on?
Make that Zelda Dungeon Maker in between the next game, I guess. Do that. Make that
Yeah, Zelda Dungeon Maker, 3D or 2D?
You know what? Start with 2D.
Yeah.
Start with 2D.
I mean, look at the building options we have in Tears of the Kingdom. How much of a stretch is it?
I mean, it's not a stretch, but
yeah,
I think people need to get comfortable with 2D first before they start working on 3D.
I concur.
For sure.
I concur.
I'm just like, I am pretty certain they have to do a direct for this game because they have to show like what's different. I think they're pretty soon. I think on the 12th, there's gonna be a direct. They're gonna talk about the overall. Like, they're not obviously gonna spoil like major plot things, and there's going to be a lot about the story that we don't know that we learned throughout the game. I think that's something about the marketing that they're very purposely changing from Breath of the Wild, where they kind of just told us literally everything that happens in the story before the game came out. I think they're just going to tell us enough about like the story to set it up, and I think most of it's going to be the lore. I think they'll explain a little bit more like the Zonai lore, just enough to where they can explain why the Skylands are there, and then go into things like the Zonai Towers and the Zonai Shrines. These are in quotations because we don't know exactly what those are going to be called. Things like that, the basic progression of the game, the dungeons, actually go in depth on underground, if there's underwater exploration, those kind of things. I think we're all going to see that very soon at Direct. We're not going to know everything, but we're going to know enough to see that this is not the same game. We're going to see like some examples of towns and how they're changed. We're going to see a little bit of that building restoration. We're going to see all these things that we've been waiting. I don't think they're going to just cold turkey us into the game, because I think they need to show us like why this isn't Breath of the Wild DLC. But I think there's going to be a lot of secrets still, which is great because, as much as I loved watching like 16 hours of footage at E3 for Breath of the Wild, and then, getting to see all this stuff, it is great also seeing a game where you don't know everything, but obviously there's still things that I think they need to show us. So I think we're going to see it soon, and it's going to be fine. And the gameplay that we saw this last week was just a hint on more just like showing us things we can do and getting us excited before they do the full blowout.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's definitely the beginning. We got very short trailers before this. This is the first time they actually had an extended look at the game, right?
Right.
This isn't the whole game. We didn't see the entire game, which is why when I first came in and I mentioned what I wanted to see next, I said what I want to see next, not we will see when the game releases, right? I'm expecting to see more, and I think we will see more. How much more, I don't know. There is a very good chance that they're doing what you're saying, where they decide to kind of be a little more low key with how much they're showing. But we're definitely going to see more. This wasn't the whole thing.
Yeah,
we're at least going to get
be wowed,
like an overview trailer.
Excited. Yeah, I think
least.
that they'll be in the Direct. I think the Direct will start off with like a general like overview trailer. I think they did that for E3 2016. I think so. Either way, I think they're going to do that anyways, because we're going to need to see a new trailer. And I think that's how they'll talk about a lot of the story stuff. And then after that, they'll go into like the gameplay.
Yeah. It's tricky because I know that they're trying not to say much, but also I feel like they need to tell us something. Like, we need to know something.
Yeah, that's
like maybe reveal one dungeon. Don't tell us how to beat the dungeon. Just be like, hey, here's the fire dungeon. I wonder where you find this.
Or they just be like, hey, look, there's a mysterious door here that looks really interesting. I wonder what that could be, and just walk away. Like, don't even go inside. Just walk away. Let us see that much, and we could speculate that that is a dungeon or something along those lines.
Show us some boss fights. I don't know. I honestly think that they've shown us like 0.01%. Like they've shown us a minuscule number of what's actually there. So
most of what they've shown is just things that you can do in the world without actually showing the world itself. Like we've pretty much just keep going back to the same exact like areas that they've shown before. Like you can see clearly in the background, like all the same kind of stuff we've seen in all the other trailers. It's pretty much the same areas that they're using over and over again, and just showing off different things you can do in the same areas. So we haven't really like seen hardly any of the map at all. Even the new stuff, we've barely seen anything, much less how they're changing the original map.
Yeah, there's so much. So I'm thinking that we're getting a Tears of the Kingdom Direct next week. April 12th.
Nice.
April 12th. We're 8 days away.
Exactly a month before the game comes out.
Yep. Yeah, now
and it'd be after the Mario movie releases, so we don't have to worry about that hype being conflated or distracting or whatever.
Yeah, and it would be just enough time before Advance Wars to give Advance Wars some hype before before it's still a little bit, just a little bit.
I mean, it's Advance Wars. The people who are interested in that game are gonna buy it, and then nobody else is gonna care. That's how Advance Wars.
It'd be funny if we get an Advance Wars
and they've
Direct.
done nothing to help with the marketing.
We're gonna get an Advance Wars Direct next week instead.
The disappointment.
I would watch.
There's some very select people who would be so happy.
I mean, it's a couple remakes, so they actually shouldn't do that. I think that trailer's enough. But anyways, I'm gonna end the poll here. Yeah. So we got 107 votes. What can Nintendo show off to quiet those saying Tears of the Kingdom is just overpriced DLC? Of the 4 options that I provided, the one that won out is large, unique dungeon bosses with 49%, big epic story at 26%, massive underground exploration at 12%, and underwater at 12%.
Yeah, I think things like underwater and underground, I don't think those are things that are going to show like that this is like a crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it would show off how bigger the map, how much bigger the map is, though.
Yeah, I think that's a smaller part. I think the biggest thing isn't even on this list, which is like showing us how the towns and things actually in Hyrule are different and how they can expand.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, then see how much is different from what we've known before.
Yeah,
I'm surprised that dungeons though won out over story, because I feel like story is a very obvious way where the game's going to feel very different, because I think it's going to have a much more active story than Breath of the Wild.
I guess the thing is that people miss dungeons more than... Yeah, that part of I think part of the dungeons kind of touch on the story a bit already, and like Zelda hasn't always been known for a good story to begin with, but
Skyward Sword pulled off a pretty great story though.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is that dungeons are a bigger part of what Zelda has been as opposed to story. So people wanting dungeons back more than story makes sense.
True, but that's not the question. The question is what makes it feel more like its own game.
Right, but it's impacted because people want it back more. It seems like a bigger deal to impress people.
I do agree with that. I think it's Zelda's at the end of the day is kind of like a puzzle game almost. It's very focused on its puzzles.
It's a very cool puzzle game, but that's what it is. It's an adventure puzzle
Breath
game.
Breath of the Wild definitely kind of doesn't. It has puzzles, obviously, tons of puzzles, shrines and dungeons and stuff, but it has a very different type of puzzles, and it's also like it still is less puzzle focused than the other games. So I guess I mean
it's very exploration focused. If I guess that's what you mean, but I see exploration as part of the puzzle. So
True.
Yeah, but let me kind of get
like Skyward Sword, where like the environment actually like is a straight up puzzle. Just getting around the puzzle.
Yeah, Skyward Sword is a massive puzzle. Yeah. All right, I want to see. There was quite a few ads. I'm gonna focus on some ads, and I'll try and catch up. Let's see here. Sean Castle. I think the game is mostly underground. The way they have been marking the sky so much leads me to believe that they are tricking us. The underground will be the focus of the game. I think it might be at least like a big half. Yeah.
I think it could be a bigger deal than what they've shown, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be like the surprise focus twist.
Charles Trudell. I didn't get Breath of the Wild, but probably getting Tears of the Kingdom 1 week after launch. There you go. There you go. Let's see here. Nishwick Pops. I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles X right now, and I'm thinking about how much verticality Tears of the Kingdom can have, especially when a game like this goes so high up. Man, Xenoblade X is just crazy with what you can do and how high you can fly. Tears of the Kingdom is going to take it to another level. Raijin.
Tears of the Kingdom, like the lowest islands are like taller than most of the mountains.
Right.
And you can go so much higher.
And we saw in the coordinates, that was around the 1800s. The number could conceivably go up to 9,999. Now, I don't know if it'll go that high, but there's obviously can go up significantly higher. So it's going to be interesting to see just how high we go.
Even if it doesn't go that high, I'm sure some speedrunner will find out some trick to make him be able to go that high.
Yeah.
Speedrunner goes to the moon. Yeah. Raijin, seeing the Mario movie tomorrow? Technically not tomorrow. I'm watching it on Wednesday. I wanted to go for a midnight showing, but there was none available when I was trying to order them. So not every area is offering it, I guess.
I thought it came out on the 5th.
Yes, it is, but a midnight showing would technically be on the 5th.
Right, it just went. Oh, I get tomorrow at midnight, which is technically not tomorrow.
Correct.
Yeah, I get.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. Spheromancer added me. Have you talked about the fact that Breath of the Wild has different regional borders than Tears of the Kingdom on the map? No, and I haven't seen that. But if you can send me something, maybe that might be good material for a theory video, and maybe something we can talk about on stream on Thursday. Please do that. I would love to take a look. Let's see here. John Carl, how can Nintendo do a good plot with the free liberties of Breath of the Wild? I think
that's a whole can of worms we could talk about for like an hour.
Right, we're not going to talk about it for an hour. We've kind of talked about this before, but I'll give you my quick take. I think what you have to do is limit the flashbacks. I think most of the story should limit the flashbacks.
Happen as you're playing.
Yeah, as you're playing, yes. Maybe certain maybe like instead of it happening based off where you're at in terms of the world, it's more about progress, like how closer you are to beating the game, and that unlocks another cutscene. Yeah. So like,
I mean, dungeons, like in Breath of the Wild, would change things in the environment once you completed them. It with no cutscene to indicate this, so it wouldn't be that hard to just like change things, add story elements, and add cutscenes.
Yeah. Even if you can do the dungeons out of order, which is what we're going to assume, yeah, they could just have a cutscene that happens based off how many dungeons you've beaten.
Yeah,
now,
the story doesn't need to be tied to what happens in the specific dungeon.
Yeah. Now, there could be a mix, though. There could be some that are based off what you've done, and there could be others simply based off how much you've done. There can be a blend of both. Now, I don't know what would determine the how much and how and what would determine which, but they could do a little mix of both. And then the which, like, you know, like if it's based off a location you do, so the story is relevant to that area, it would have to be tangential to the rest of the story.
I think the relevant story will be more like lore based, like figuring out what's going on with the dungeon, like the story behind it and things like that, but also like different characters related in the areas. Like Breath of the Wild, when you went to a dungeon, it wasn't just about like the divine beast, it was also about how the divine beast was affecting the area.
Yeah.
And I imagine there will be similar things where you go to a dungeon area and there's things
right
related to the towns or whatever civilization, whatever around that particular dungeon that will tie into the story as well. And that's where you'll get like the context specific stuff, but then the cutscenes that happen afterwards will be like just more generic. just like things are happening because of progression rather than what actually happened.
Yeah, so to your point, Brandon, like, so there can be a story that's kind of tangential to the rest of the story. Like, you could experience that part of the story at any point. It doesn't impact it because it's like a side story, like each issue with
Right.
each area. To your point, and then yeah, like they could also have a linear story that's told after the fact, or it could even happen in waves. I think the way Pokemon Scarlet and Violet handle the story is actually pretty good. Where there's a story in the beginning, there's a huge story at the end, and then there's kind of like side stories that happen throughout. They can do it kind of like that. There may even be a middle point or two that is like a significant plot beat that happens, and then the side stories happen tangentially, and then by the end of it, it's actually a pretty good ending. I do think, though, in order to have a good story, at least to help it a lot, I don't think we should have the final boss at the end. I think that maybe should be something that sticks to. I mean, what I mean is, I don't think we should be able to skip to the final boss right from the beginning. That's what I meant to say. I think that's. Right. I think maybe they keep that as a very Breath of the Wild thing, and Tears of the Kingdom it's a little bit more linear in that sense. The exploration is still entirely open, but the final boss maybe is something you can't access till the end. Shifty sounds like you're like you disagree.
I don't think they should change that personally. I don't think they should touch anything related to how open the game is compared to the first one. I feel like that's just kind of part of its identity at this point. Like if you change that, then I feel like it's a detriment to the game.
I don't know. I feel like inherently there's gonna be more limitation. Like you can push past it, but like when you're wanting to get higher and higher up in the sky, it's just like less and less convenient to do so at a very slow pace. I feel like that naturally just keeps your progression more than anything did in Breath of the Wild. And I feel like it would make more sense like if the story, because we see Ganondorf as like this corpse, but I don't imagine he stays that way. And I'm curious how they would keep that with like story if he is like progressing. Like maybe is it easier like if you go quick? Because that would be very odd. Like if he's in his weakest state when you go, but he's like stronger, the more time it takes to get there. I mean, there's things that could be interesting with it, but I think inherently you kind of have to lessen the story in order to have him be able to be just fought at any time without any context. So I feel like that is one change where, like, that was a very gimmicky thing for Breath of the Wild. I don't think it was really like a core part of the gameplay or the idea of like what made Breath of the Wild special. I think it was just like kind of a cool gimmick. So I do think that's one of the things that they could drop, because I think it's a much bigger deal to tell like a better story than it is to just like have this cool gimmick where you can fight the boss anytime, which most people probably didn't even do.
I'm gonna just respectfully disagree with that personally.
Respectfully? Oh no, he didn't. He respectfully.
Very disrespectfully declined. How dare you?
How dare you not agree with me?
I feel like it's one of those things that because I definitely attempted to at one point, and I know many people that at least my own friend circle, which is a bubble, mind you, it's not going to be representative of everyone who plays the game, but there's so many people that I personally know that Breath of the Wild was one of their first Zelda games, and that was one of the first things they tried to do, just because they wanted to see if they could do it. And there's also like a huge section of the community who does like speed runs constantly to try to beat this boss like as soon as possible.
Speed runs are very cool.
I mean, so I feel like it's. Well, I understand. Like, if you're someone, it depends on the type of player you are. I think if you're someone who is really, really hoping for a very engaging and involved storyline, then I can understand why you'd feel like that was a necessary sacrifice. I personally don't see it as a necessary sacrifice. There's a lot of ways I feel like you can structure a story and still have it be open.
Maybe you're right.
And I think like a lot of that has to do with like things that you have to do around like preparation and stuff like that, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be flashbacks, but at the time when I first played Breath of the Wild, I thought it was a pretty good compromise. I didn't really have any issues with the flashbacks. It wasn't until, maybe some time passed and I talked to some friends, mostly you guys, honestly, where I found out there were issues with it, that people felt that it wasn't enough. But,
yeah, I was instantly
yeah.
disappointed the moment I found out flashbacks were even in the game. I was so crushed, like, because they hyped up the story in Breath of the Wild with the trailers as being like the best story ever. Like, it seemed like it was just gonna have like all this insane amounts of mystery and twists and crazy stuff that was gonna go down, and then like 2 hours in the game, you know everything, and then all the flashbacks are is like character building.
For
And
characters
is
that are
character
dead
building not
already.
important, though? I would argue it's very important.
Character building is cool, but
But
not
they're
if that's
dead.
the main crux of your whole story.
They're
With
character building
they're
dead
all
characters.
They're just
That
dead
don't
make
matter.
You care about to make you care about the character. Why would you ever care about any story where characters died that had no development?
I get that.
No, I think
I
it's
get that,
important,
but we
like,
already
that
know
can't-
they're
I
dead.
can't be the whole. That can't
I don't
be the
see
whole
that
crux
being
of the
a
story.
difference. Some of the in the terms of like another franchise, right? If I make an example, Halo Reach is one of the most favorited stories out of the entire Halo franchise, despite everyone knowing what was going to be the end of that game before people even bought the game. Like, I don't think that has anything to do with
Shifty,
not
I'm gonna tell you
it
something.
matters.
I think that's a reach.
Ah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
mean,
kidding.
like,
I didn't play Reach, so I
it
can't. really
can be
speak.
cool. I just don't. Reach also
Yeah.
didn't rely on just. It had flashbacks, but it didn't rely on. only
Listen, I'm not
flashbacks.
against
We also-
flashbacks.
well,
I
I'm
just
only
it would be
mentioning
nice to
Reach as
have
a-
some of the story be current because it adds to the stakes. It's
Yeah.
kind of the story
problem
already
was-
happened.
I'm just saying that, like, I feel like you can structure a story to be current and still have the open-ended nature of the game without sacrificing that. I don't think
Yeah,
it needs to
but,
be
like,
flashbacks. I'm just
if I
saying
can
that.
just go beat the boss, then everything I do in the story literally does not matter. Like, that makes
I don't
sense
feel
in
that
Breath of
way.
the Wild because there is no story. Well, how could it? Literally, any story implication for anything I'm doing does not matter because I
So,
can just go beat the
here-
boss.
Because
here's
there's a
the-
lot more involved than just fighting
Well-
the boss. Like, there's a lot more that goes into it than just that, I think.
Hey, remember how we talked about how this could be its own hour-long topic?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. We got other questions to get to, and we're near the end.
Okay.
Man,
I'll wrap up my point by saying I think it's possible to do it either way. I just think it
Mhm.
would be. I think they can do it better if they don't allow you to beat the boss at first. Because I think there's ways they can work around it. I just don't want them to do that. I want them to do something more whole. There's something. I don't know. The word's not coming to mind.
maybe we
but I don't
should
want
maybe
them
we
to
should
do
just
that.
have a whole separate recorded discussion on this.
we could. We honestly could.
Yeah. But maybe we
I-
could construct our points, plan it out, make it like a. Well, we'll talk about this behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to say on this before we move on?
I mean,
I
yes,
want to, but
Well,
I'm gonna
okay.
refrain.
all right. I am now hinting that there may be a concise 20-minute-ish discussion where we all formulate our points beforehand. We bring them, we counter, and then we agree or disagree. So that may come out in the not so distant future. Maybe. No promises. Maybe it'll just be a stream. I don't know. Anyways. Charles Fidelis is from way back earlier. It's just how late I am to get into chat stuff. Said boss fights should be kept secret. This is me talking about how they should show off a couple earlier. Well, I mean, at least based off how they handled other Zeldas, they revealed some boss fights. Like, Twilight Princess revealed the fire boss fight. Wind Waker revealed the fire boss fight. You know, so
they showed off the block guy, I guess.
well, that's a mini boss. But yeah,
True, yeah.
that-
It's a boss.
well, okay, I'm assuming
Yeah.
it's a mini boss. We don't know, right? We don't know. I'm assuming it's a
Right.
mini boss based off the footage we talked about today, where it's kind of like out in the overworld looks like. But we'll see. Maybe mini boss is the wrong world. Overworld boss.
Could just be a more important overworld boss that gets you a different reward.
Yeah.
Other than just parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So Samuel A provided a super chat. Thank you very much, Samuel. Samuel says that was a fun call-in. I think the sky and underground will be distinct, where we trained Link and get stronger due to the Zonai in the sky, Tower of the Gods. That's a good observation. And battle Ganon's minions underground. I do get the sense that the Sky Islands are like a testing ground, like a trial very much like what we saw in the Wind Waker. It does feel that they're trying to train up and prepare Link. So I think there could be something to that. Very much.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know why the constructs attack Link. Like, if they are like Zonai construction, are the Zonai not on our side?
Well, there's some friendly constructs too, though. So
yeah, there seems to be like NPC ones with like I think they're called the Ranger constructs.
Yeah, you can talk to them, and they just look like they're just kind of working on the land, kind of like the ancient robots from Skyward Sword. Yeah. Charles Chagel asked me the battery power to fly to the end goal. That's what I think. I think we just need a lot of battery power. The tears will extend your power, and you can fly to the moon. And that's where Ganon's at. He gets a castle on the moon.
Just apply a fan to your shield, try to shield surf, and turn on the fan and go.
There you go. Maybe. Spheromancer, it's at 22:25 of Nintendo Black Crisis breakdown gameplay video. Where he talks about the map. I'll have to take a look at that. Spheromancer. Lethal John asks me, they could just make the final dungeon and boss fight so difficult that it's near impossible to beat it at the start. I mean, that's kind of how it is in Breath of the Wild. But you also could technically just kind of walk there. It's hard to walk there, but it is possible.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like avoiding all the enemies and
it's very hard to get there, but it can be done.
And that is a barrier I don't mind you. Like I do think barriers that are gameplay related like that are kind of welcomed. It's just a challenge at that point. Like I like the challenge. I just dislike hard barriers.
Yeah, I just don't know how they're going to do it again. Like, I don't want it to be hiring Hyrule Castle for Link to just waltz up there, right? So where do they put it? What kind of barriers do they place that would be so you can somehow get past? Like, like you can't.
Yeah.
Like,
like that's fine. I have no problem with that.
If the final boss is in Hyrule Castle again, it seems like it's similarly easy to get to, like relatively. But if he's not there, maybe if he is somewhere like extremely high in the sky, like I wouldn't mind that. Like it might make more sense if it's like actually harder to get to.
Like if the actual final boss is feasible, like you could fight him at the beginning, but it's just so difficult to do that in any fashion, and it's not because it's invisible barriers or a locked door that just won't let you in without story progression. Like if it's just there's a really tough knight in the way and he one-shots you because you have no armor yet, then I think that's fine. Like that's cool to me.
But if you can theoretically dodge all of his attacks and kill him after many repeated strikes with your stick.
I would like it if you had to, like, there was something you had to defeat before you could get into, like, because you can just kind of walk past everything to the final boss here. It's like dodging everything in Breath of the Wild. It would be cool if it's like, you cannot actually progress to this point until you fight this guy, and he's insane.
Maybe. Jesse Beholder says, I think flashbacks don't make sense. I mean, is Link going to forget everything again? Very weak plot. Yeah, I think it'd be weird if they just... It would be a plot contrivance if he just forgets everything again from the battle.
Yeah, I don't think
and then you have to collect flashbacks. I would be a little
no reason disappointed. To bring back flashbacks.
Like what? He just falls and hits his head, and now he forgot everything.
He just has a propensity to just lose all his memories.
I could see a way for them to do flashbacks back to like, way back, like tens of thousands of years ago, back when like before Ganon was sealed and stuff, like something that aren't Link's memories, but they're like flashbacks to a very far time for like story context and things. I could see that, but otherwise, like everything's just happening currently, so there's no need for flashbacks.
Yeah.
But
anyways, we'll call it a night for now. Is there any final things you guys want to say?
Yeah, I want to argue with Brandon again about that story thing. How dare... No, I'm not saying
How dare you not
Save it for the discussion. Save it for the discussion. Okay. Yeah. All right, then I guess we are good to go. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. Super appreciated. You can follow both Brandon and Shifty on Twitter. But I just slammed the table. I'm sorry. But we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Later.